Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm your host, Alexis, and I'm joined by Alexys Moreno and David Francisco. Today, we have so much to talk about and expect a bunch of explosions and rants coming your way. And, of course, you wouldn't be watching or listening to this show if you were expecting anything otherwise. Of course, this is the show that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more, and we've got so much for you ahead, which, the Oscar nominations came out, but at this point, it's kind of old news in comparison to all the other crap that's happening, particularly with live-action remake projects, interestingly enough. Things coming back, things imploding, and, thoughts of the other sort. That's going to be our show here on Red Spotlight number 472. How are you guys doing this week? I want to actually catch up with you and what's the latest with Turn to Page and Percy Jackson, and also how you're feeling. In that order, because of course that's the least important thing to me. But go ahead. Humor, of course, not at all being serious. Go ahead, guys.
Well, we missed last week's episode because we were getting ready to go on a little trip. But,
I was by myself.
Yeah, but we're gonna do both episodes, the last two episodes together this week, so that should be fun. And then we are gonna do a book podcast, the sequel to the one that we did last time, The Maid. What was it called? The sequel?
Mystery Guest?
Yeah, something like that.
I forgot. I've been reading it, but I forgot the name of the title.
Yeah, I just call it The Maid 2 or something like that. So,
it's not that.
No, but the book so far is really, really good. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta note this down because there's a lot going on, and I stopped listening to it, and so it's been trouble. You're trying to finish it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
quite a bit going on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up this week, so.
And I'm trying to do a podcast with Sergio. I haven't done it in a while just because he wasn't done with the game that I played, which was God of War, Ragnarok, Valhalla. But when I saw him this weekend, he was like, "Dude, just talk about it. I'm not gonna beat that thing." I'm like, "Perfect, I can talk about it." So we're planning that soon.
There's literally so much going on, and it doesn't help when you leave town.
Yeah.
Especially when you leave town to be hours and hours away. You went to San Diego, which is what? How many hours away? 7?
Yeah.
That's insane. And yet somehow you two are still breathing. In the midst of all that, because that's 14 hours on the road in a single weekend.
We're so used to the road by now.
Yeah.
Literally.
It doesn't faze you.
Because I go all the time, and people tell me to or
chill.
People are shocked that I drive by myself all the time, or I don't know. But we also grew up that way.
True.
So you've been conditioned.
Yeah, because we moved to where you live, and we're originally from San Diego, so literally every weekend we would go. So
just to be clear, for those who are not aware, I live in Mos Eisley. So continue.
So I don't know. It doesn't feel any different than when we were younger.
But then also we've been so tired lately. Every time we fall asleep in the car, we're just it's we close our eyes and then like that. We're here? How? I didn't even know you went past the mountains. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's insane. But those are the best kind of naps, at least to me.
Yeah.
When you just skip a good part of the trip and you're like, oh, we saved some time. Not really, but you weren't awake for it, so in a way you kind of did. So yeah, I do want to note, because we're at the top here, we're talking about programming. Just real quick, I want to just run down through what we're talking about today. We're going to respond to comments that we received from Little Mermaid, obviously. We're not going to just let that fly. We're going to talk about the controversial comments made by people attached to yet another live action remake, this being The Last Airbender, and now, or I should say Avatar: The Last Airbender. And of course, we'll talk about the trailer. We're going to discuss the Barbie explosion that happened and everybody feeling the need to have an opinion about it. And then it ended up being a whole discourse inside another discourse, and then it ended up turning into a situation where everybody just got sick of it. Then the Oscar nominations. We're going to talk about Saltburn because all of us have now finally seen it, as well as the rest of the internet. And then we'll end today by talking about The Bad Batch and the return of Asajj Ventresss, which is, I mean, not something that we obviously just, let go. We have to mention that, especially since we've been waiting for that for over 10 years now. Yeah, literally, it's been a long ass time. So that's the stories for today. But at the top, I wanted to ask you, just so we had this in our minds, not to have any realistic expectation that we're going to have an answer for anybody right now. But I do know that in the next couple of weeks, there are a couple of things that are of note that we may be able to turn in some reactions, but we just have to kind of play it by ear. I'm not sure they'll have a sense of consistency just depending on our schedules. But I know that we discussed last week that Bad Batch is coming back at the end of next month, I want to say. I believe there are 15 episodes, and some of them are going to drop 3 at once. Some of them will drop 2 at once. Interesting release schedule. And it's going to run all the way up to May 1st, right before May 4th. And there is speculation, as a matter of fact. I think I listened to I think Corey Van Dyke, I believe he's a former Kessel Run Transmissions. He's one of those Star Wars insiders, and he's worked with Lucasfilm, so I think he claims he has inside knowledge that the expectation is there will be another, this is actually pretty great news, another Lucasfilm animation show announced for May the 4th, which is the only thing exciting about Star Wars these days. So I'll take it. And that doesn't include Tales of the Jedi, because there is a second season of Tales of the Jedi coming, which they speculate will be in October of this year. So that's down the line. So we may want to play with the idea of doing some Bad Batch reactions, because this is the final season, so a lot of things will be ramping up. Besides, season 2 was really great. Season 1 was really good. Season 2 was wow. And I'm just glad that I'm not the only one that picked up on some parallels between that and Andor. And I also want to make it pretty clear that, of course, that Dave Filoni has his hand in a lot of things in Star Wars. Dave Filoni did not write a single episode of Bad Batch, and he is not the showrunner. He's just he's not involved in the show. I just want to be clear about that. And the quality of the Bad Batch, and David and I had said it from the first episode, blows anything live action Star Wars on Disney Plus out of the water. There's just no comparison whatsoever. So that's going to be an interesting thing to explore. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the Bad Batch at the end of the show. The other thing happening is, and this is a bit more difficult to do reactions because this won't be week to week, but it also is something that we don't expect to be technically good, but we're a little bit curious, I would say. Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. But I do want to say, though, they're going to drop all their episodes at once. I'm not aware as to how many episodes they're, right? I think they're going to do it all at one time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I assume so.
Which makes it kind of impossible to do reactions because it's just the whole thing's there. Do you guys plan on watching it? Are you curious?
I am.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, into the extended lore of our own podcast, we did a huge deep dive into the mythology of the 2 animated shows, Last Airbender and Korra, back in 2020. And I don't know about you guys, but those are some of my favorite episodes we've ever done. Some of my favorite conversations we captured on this podcast. And of course, if anybody wants listening and watching, sure, watching. We'll go with that. It's a new word. If you're watching, then you can go back into gravity, Doctor Who. Go back into 2020 into our library and listen to those episodes. They're really, really good conversations. They also involve Peter Martinez and Kyle Lira, who have since passed away because they are not on the show anymore. Not that I've seen anyway. It's been a couple of months. I guess Peter came back, but I think we have since determined that was an aberration. Because of course he would come back to haunt us, me particularly, and of course he'll be back for the top 10 show, which of course, if that is If I could ever be haunted more, yeah, of course he would come back from the dead for that particular episode, which will be happening 2 weeks or so ish after the Oscars, and more on that in a bit. So a lot in our minds to keep track of, obviously, on top of what you already had mentioned. So a lot already happening. That's not even counting into some 2023 movies you want to catch up with, or new 2024 movies, which really there's no new realistically interesting 2024 movies that have come out. I mean, all the stuff that's come out this month has been pretty I mean, Mean Girls notwithstanding, I'm not, and I can't speak to the quality of it, but everything else has been kind of like typical January stuff where you're just like, oh yeah, ignore. Anyway, that's where we're at. What a fucking week. Can we just like start off with like, can you believe the week that has happened? And I believe me, I am referring to every bit of what we're discussing, but I'm also referring to things that we're not even going to touch on. Like, evidently, the right wing declaring war on Taylor Swift, and evidently Taylor Swift becoming a focal point in the 2024 presidential election, where Joe Biden wants to get her endorsement, and Donald Trump's like, well, she's not. I'm more popular than she is. Like, what is going on?
All right.
Like, what? Like, it's pretty funny to me. It's like, wow, can Taylor Swift be any bigger? And yet she ends up eclipsing her previous peak of popularity. Like, she just,
and like, it's just so funny because she literally just sits there. Like, she doesn't do anything.
She's
like, that's
just
what
a song.
blows my mind.
She's just a singer. Like, nothing more. Like, she's a great singer, obviously, but like, nothing more.
It's insane to me that this is where we're at in presidential politics, right? I mean,
I don't know if it was true, but I saw that Twitter wasn't like showing, like, because she was trending, but it wasn't loading on Twitter because people were like just.
That's true. She was banned at one point, or at least the search was banned for a minute or so.
Because people were just being brutal for, again, absolutely no reason. But whatever. Yeah. You know what?
I mean, I just wanted to like read one of the headlines that I saw today. That I think kind of captures the insanity. This comes to us from the Rolling Stone. This is a Rolling Stone article. Right-wingers say Super Bowl is rigged so Taylor Swift can endorse Biden.
People are so funny. People are so creative. It's just like, yeah.
How are any of those things connected? This is, I mean, you gotta respect, I guess, just the craziness. People, falling into it completely. So yeah, I mean, and look, that's for our entertainment, right? Because we're trying to distract ourselves from the fact that the two presidential candidates are kind of falling apart in front of all of our eyes for various different reasons. I mean, the one thing they have in common is they have a hard time speaking. And they both sound drunk on stage because they're
literally falling apart.
They're slurring their words. Nobody can understand what's going on. And yeah, not to mention one of them got slapped with an $80 million defamation suit. So there's that. Anyway, that's part of the craziness that's happened this week. And there's still so much more. That if I mean, I don't want to spend so much time on it, but we just got to get into the stuff that's, circling us. But I think the common theme of today's show is a lot of these topic items are just kind of idiotic. Just the overwhelming, I want to say, stink of them is just like, wow, this is just, we've really got nothing better to do on our hands than just fight over dumb shit all day long.
It's been a slow year so far, so we're kind of
I mean, yeah. So let's go ahead and look, I'm not even going to bother reading the specific comments that we received, only because, well, we can paraphrase them in a more succinct manner, but we also kind of know what they are because we knew what they were going to be. In case, and I did go back and and see the video. And I want to say the most important thing that we can take away from this is that David, the editing on that was impeccable. Really good job. I wasn't even expecting all the different basically inserts that you put it in there to kind of help people visualize what the fuck we were talking about.
Yeah.
I wasn't even I was kind of shook a little bit because I wasn't even aware you were talking about the song Agony from Into the Woods, because I forgot it even existed. I'm like, it's not when you play the Agony, and I'm like, oh shit, that song exists. I remember that song. And I thought it was pretty funny how the graphic kept coming up of like the number of Rob Marshall films.
I know.
That was so funny to me.
I told her about that one. She was just like, yeah, it's really good. I like it. It just kept adding like circles to it more and more.
It was just funny.
It was.
I feel like I'm happy that the video's out, because I feel like our conversation like was good. But I'll let you talk about the comments.
I mean, thought we usually have a pretty good convo, but sometimes, and look, we have most of our history with this podcast particularly has just been audio only. But I think we're kind of discovering in these last few months that we've been, now doing video, there's a whole other dimension of things to capture in our conversations. Like, you get to see our faces, our facial expressions. It kind of adds a lot to a lot of our own laugh. Like, we make each other laugh a lot. And sometimes I'm not sure that's captured if you don't have the picture literally. David.
No, I was going to say, I have the comments right here if you wanted to talk about it. But
I mean, if you'd like to read them, sure. And I want to say off the bat, we never get any kind of feedback whatsoever. And so when anybody is like, so moved to type something in, that's always nice. I do want to say though, as somebody who is usually on the receiving end of the kind of comments that is not necessarily always welcome, it does get to be a bit grating, even though I'll fully say that because of the fact that 99% of the comments that we end up getting is to complain to our faces about something that we said. And even though we answered their criticisms in the video itself or whatever, they still feel the need to comment whatever they want to say. Because I'm so used to it, it's not surprising. Like, oh, here's a new comment that's pretty fucking critical. Like, oh yeah, well, that's par for the course. But I gotta say, I think that kind of is a reflection of what we I think strive to do here, which is to have an honest fucking opinion. Like, we don't really hold back on how we feel, and especially with Disney or a lot of the big franchises, we say a lot of things that are pretty cutthroat and pretty vicious. But they're genuine and honest in how we feel. And we feel ultimately that how we feel is closest to the truth than what others would find on other shows where they're really kind of sugar-coated and trying to be nice about things because, Disney and Papa Iger pay the big bucks, right? Well, we don't get those checks. So not that I'm saying that the people get checks, but they get a lot of favors. They get a lot of access. We don't have any of that. We don't care to get any of that. We're just here to vent and talk about how we see things. And ultimately, we understand that's going to rub people the wrong way. And so this kind of reaction is exactly what I think is kind of the proof of how we feel and everything. At the same time, we've been through enough of these where you already know what the comments are going to be before you even finish the freaking video. I didn't even realize it myself that I closed off. Was it that Little Mermaid or was it something else? I was watching a video, one of ours, and I closed off the show basically suggesting that there would be a comment like that we ended up getting, actually, complaining about something. And it always is funny, though, that it always ends up being kind of random, too. Like, to me, the funniest comments that we ever got was when David and I sat down and did our Captain Marvel audio commentary. And this person was basically
always the audio commentaries, too. That, like... And it's just so funny because those are so long. And those are the ones that people
fair, I think some of our podcasts can
That's true.
easily go longer than the
Some.
audio commentaries. To
For
be
sure.
fair, though, I mean, we've had 4-hour podcasts on this show before, so it's not necessarily that foreign. But yeah. Anyway, David, feel free if you want to read that comment.
Yeah.
I mean, we thank the person for feeling so, inclined to share what they think.
Yeah.
Although, as we're gonna get into, they're pretty fucking wrong. But go ahead and read that comment.
So it was at iris.-xo. I'm just gonna paraphrase the comments because this person wrote 4 different comments. I'm pretty sure they put just their thoughts as they were going along with the video, because later on they bring up certain things that we brought up or something, or like just hasn't happened yet. I don't know. But yeah, basically, like the first one was just we were nitpicking on Hallie's singing. This person liked this version better than the original and all that. And basically, I just commented that we loved Hallie singing. We think she's an amazing singer, and we really liked the For the First Time song and all that. We were just kind of, our main complaint is that the changes they made, it wasn't as calculated as it was as in the original, basically. And so that was our main complaint. We don't mind her singing. It was just the way she was singing it. It wasn't the same as the original.
The main point is, it very clearly was, they didn't put anywhere near the kind of thought into how the vocal of the song should be as the original film did, And I want to just cut straight to the bullshit, because I know you're going to read one of the comments that's like, well, why are you guys overly comparing it to the original? Because the movie does it itself.
Yes.
Do you not watch the movie? Do you think we want to be here and constantly be those people that, compares it to the original? If you know us and have been listening to us, we try and separate it as much as possible. But the film itself makes it a mission statement to repeat, to copy as much of the original as possible. And when you do that, it completely, it fails. It doesn't at all come close to what it was. And so it's like, look, all of us here, especially years ago in the early days of these live action remake announcements, we're like, well, you know what? We don't want to be those people that says it's not fair to compare it to the original. But at a certain point, if all you're doing is
the carbon copy of
if it's a carbon copy, you can't get mad at us for comparing it, because the film itself is inviting these comparisons by it existing, by its push in the media, in the sequences in the films. Like, you can't help but compare it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do, every time, literally every time, it is 1,000 times worse than the original film.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, that's not something I will be moved on. Like, you're just flat out fucking wrong there. And you got to get over your shit, or just move on to somewhere else where they're going to be nice about, oh, but wasn't it pretty? It was pretty fucking ugly. A lot of what was going on. Sorry, these are among the worst movies that have been made in the last 10 years, and it should be repeated 1,000 times and scream it as loud as you can be. And that kind of thinking just reinforces how fucked we are if this is where our tastes are at. Sorry, I'm already blowing up. Go ahead, continue with what you were saying there.
I mean, I put in Cinderella and Jungle Book as comparisons. Like, those movies, they're very
You're
different.
being too nice. Go ahead.
They're very different from the original. If we did audio commentaries on both Cinderella movies, we would have very different conversations, and we'll complement both movies, really. Just our conversation would be different for the live action Cinderella than what our conversation was for live action Little Mermaid. Like, that is, I just know for that. I know for sure that would happen. The other 2 comments, one of them is, the person found For the First Time song to be underappreciated. So yeah, that's why I was thinking, like, I think this person probably like commented as they were watching along. This one just complimented Eric's character development, which we mentioned.
We did.
Yeah, again, that's why this person was probably commenting.
I think what they were coming from was when we all collectively were just like, no, when they took away that like the key moment that he's supposed to have and give it to Ariel, which, funnily enough, somehow kind of rhymes with some of the stuff we're gonna have on the menu here today, particularly with the Sokka stuff in Avatar, which is like you're taking away things that on paper we can clearly see are, for lack of a better way of putting it, to score some woke points. Although I want to make it pretty clear, any use of the word woke by any of us here should not insinuate to any of you listening or watching, I'll put that, we're going to make it a term, watching, that we are in any way affiliated with the anti-woke mob, the alt-right, Nazi, geeks and gamers, like brain rot, groupthink, idiot, sexist, fascist people. We're not at all associated with them. But that isn't at all to say that there are not substantive things you can critique when your main goal is to just be so message heavy to the point where it like completely destroys the characterization and the storytelling that kind of worked in the first place, which is what happened with Eric. The reason why that moment was taken away from him was because we're in 2023. The producers and the writers are like, they saw an opportunity to score some woke points by let's turn it around. Let's give Ariel, the female main character, an empowering moment. And again, there's nothing wrong with that on its surface, but when you think more critically into it, it kind of falls apart, and it kind of doesn't make at all any sense as far as the story you're telling. And it comes across as a clear corporate motivated decision. And yet another way to make things seem different, because ultimately you're not making anything really different at all. So I want to say those comments that this person put on the video that we did was in reference to that, because we were harping on that, but we were harping on it for a pretty big fucking reason.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments?
Ella?
I just think that and what David said was probably too, like, this person probably just commented as they were watching, because I feel like all the things that she was saying we kind of did answer in the conversation. Well, it might not have come out.
They, was it, I don't even know who, she, he, she, they, the person, I mean, we can't even be sure. So just to be clear, in case we're misgendering the person.
Like, I don't want it to also sound like we're like angry at this person or that this person can't come back, because
yeah, well, I know I made it seem that way, but I want to be clear though, I'm angry at the talking points. I'm angry at the mentality that is so very clearly so pervasive today. And of course, that isn't to say that this person can't continue, even though we know that the only reason they watched it was because it was an audio commentary, and they probably never watch anything we ever do again at this point. But anybody, of course, is welcome to watch. We want people to watch and listen to what we have to say. But I mean, that doesn't mean we can't come on here and like push back a little bit on some of the things that, you know, especially because I feel like we can make,
like, I feel like a lot of the times, like, we get the comments and like we just don't respond because
what's it to respond to?
But I feel like this one like we do kind of answer the points that she hits in the video.
Yeah.
And I think like the only thing I would have to say about that is like maybe the way that we expressed it came off differently as like what we thought. But we don't hate Hallie. We love her. Like, we're all big fans. We do love the changes. We don't like the similarities. And I mean, that can also be a big reason, because that's like one of our favorite Disney movies. But it's also like, it's kind of this thing of like, if it's not broke, don't
fix it.
Yeah. And like with Eric, we like the changes. That was just like, I think we maybe did like two things that we were like, oh, that was like a strange choice. But for the most part, like we always kind of knew that we weren't gonna enjoy the movie because of what we kept seeing. Like we were hopeful, but yeah.
Yeah, we were hopeful, but we knew what it was going to
And
be
we're
eventually.
also like doing this, like obviously we are gonna be more expressive and more loud, you know, for the views. But it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Ultimately, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to discuss it because it fits so well with a lot of
Yeah, it does.
what we're going to end up talking about today that's actually in the news. So just to get that out of the way at the top of it. But of course, if anybody who is listening or watching, I'm going to coin that term, is more than welcome to leave whatever, even if it's fuck you, Alexis, please go ahead. Put that, I'm sure our deceased cast members will get a laugh out of that.
It's not funny. We all just kind of laugh about it.
Yeah. Even one of them had the nerve to say that ever since they stopped appearing, the hate comments had gone through the roof.
But the views also went up.
Oh! Damn it! I should have thought of that. Whoa! Whoa! Where did that come? Where did that come from?
The quiet one.
Where did that come from? Man, if Peter were here, wow!
He would eat you alive.
He's gonna come back next week.
That's funny. I'm sorry. It came from the person.
That's like another thing too. I feel like we all bully each other so much that like whatever is said,
these comments, like, it does nothing
like
to us.
Nothing compared to what we tell each other.
Listen to our old shows. Like years and years ago. We would literally scream at each other.
I met Peter doing a podcast, and he literally, I can't even remember. I think he either called me a bitch or said "fuck you," like the first words, and I said nothing.
And by the way, he will try and convince you that you heard that wrong when we have videographic evidence of him doing the opposite to a different, interestingly enough, female panelist from years ago, calling her a bitch and everything. So
he did the same thing to David, though. So.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm not even saying sexism, but it was just like it happens. The bitch word slips out of his mouth a lot, and we actually have evidence. And we actually have evidence of me filming him, seeing the evidence that we had. So we have the receipts there. And then he'll probably cry that we're slandering him or like, and yeah, you could, yeah. I mean, we're speaking ill of the dead, but hey, I mean, if he's not here, we have a voice he doesn't. He very was welcome to be here. But I don't know. He has to go, I don't know, study about blood or something. I don't know what it is. Anyway, but seriously, I mean, I was listening a few weeks ago to some of the top 10 show from last year, and some comments that he made. I mean, Alexis, he accused you of being a racist against the indigenous for not having Avatar: The Way of Water on your favorite movies of the year. He was talking about his favorite film as saying this was for the haters and the losers, giving off all the list of awards that Everything Everywhere All at Once won. So it's just like we crap on each other. That's embedded into the DNA of the show. It's kind of what happened. Maybe because the show lately hasn't been like that. I mean, I think the show is still what the show always has been, but I think I don't know what the right word is where we're at right now. But I mean,
civil.
I guess it's a little bit more cordial and polite, I guess, a little bit. I mean, we still blow up, we still get heated, but I mean, we're not necessarily being so hostile toward each other. Interestingly, how that kind of went away when Peter and Kyle left the show. Not that they were made to leave. They just
No.
kind of disappeared. But I just think we're having all the fun here. So, I mean, anyway. To use that to transition to Avatar, The Last Airbender now. I don't know what I can say. This
All
is
I have to say is there's a reason why the two creators left.
Yeah. Years ago, Konietzko and DiMartino had a very public falling out with Netflix. And I feel like at that point, anytime they leave, it's kind of like the kiss of death. Go ask M. Night Shyamalan how it went for him. Back in 2000, whenever that film came out.
You know what I love though? That they leave and they just kind of let it run its course.
And yet they come out on top.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
They really did this time.
I mean, granted, the show's not out. We haven't seen it. But
Alexis, again, like how you were saying about the Little Mermaid just a few minutes ago, it's the exact same situation where we're talking about a live action remake of an animated property that is literally remaking the exact same story, but you invite the inevitable comparisons of how inferior of a medium live action is in comparison to animation. And so we sit through this. We want to say, and we always say that we're hopeful for all of the projects, and yet it's the same song and dance, and they come on out. They are always inferior and kind of in the same kind of ways, and there are always telltale signs. And that kind of is what brings us today in talking about The Last Airbender, which is, yeah, we'll discuss that trailer in a minute, but the big story that's coming out of it is not that trailer, but it's the controversy that's kind of exploded because of some really unfortunate comments made by the people attached to this new adaptation, which, again, it's like a lot of rhyming going on. It's the exact same kind of tone-deaf comments that were made by Halle, that were made by Rachel Zegler. Again, talking about new versions of old animated properties, but updating it, quote unquote, to a modern day audience. But that seemingly seems to be code for taking away the complexity and taking away the imperfections of a character. But part of the point of characters is that they're flawed and we get to watch them grow as people.
That's literally the point of this show, though. Like, it's just so crazy because this show, I'm literally listening to, I don't know if you guys have, I think I've talked about it before, the Braving the Elements podcast, where it's the voice of Korra and the voice of Zuko. They're hosts, and like at the top of each season right now, they just started the third book 3 for The Last Airbender. They have both, they call them their parents. They have both creators come on the show and talk about and kind of just like reflect on creating, you know, what they're going to talk about that season. And I just listened to them talking about the book 3, and literally they say like this show was meant to be timeless. Like this show is supposed to reflect you know, our world throughout the years, and it's meant to include both the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you taking out the flaws? Like how are you gonna send a message when everything is perfect, you know, or perfect, you know what I mean? Like it's just, there's no learning, there's no growing, there's, you know, and that's what storytelling is supposed to be. And how are you gonna mess it up when like it's literally right there? Like
do I have the okay, so what happened? This is the headline from Variety. Netflix's live-action Avatar series took out how sexist Sokka was in the original. Quote, a lot of moments in the animated show were iffy. A quote tweet here by Brendan Hodges, one of the best people on Twitter, who has brilliant take after brilliant take, him saying, the absolute worst kind of marketing for live action remakes of animated classics is an apology tour for how retrograde you think they are and how they needed to be fixed. This is the exact same thing as what did Rachel Zegler say? I even forgot at this point what her comments were, but yeah, something needed to be fixed. And this is also why what Hallie said about, wanting to put more characterization on Ariel, or even them changing a lyric to kiss the girl, I guess, is just ultimately unnecessary change for what ultimately, like, what's the point here? And my comments were, I like how this happens every time. Before a useless live action remake comes out, the people attached tout on themselves how woefully inept they were prepared to do this and how it never fucking works. It's always going to be inferior because apparently things need to be altered for the sake of woke points, but never because they want, and I want to make, again, I'm using woke not the way they use it, but I have to use the word because that's the word for it now. But never because they want to make an interesting choice or an adaptation for the sake of the story. That's what it always comes down to. It's like when you think critically about, this is the actor who was playing Sokka, talking about how they felt compelled to remove those sexist elements because that can't fly in 2023. But you're kind of telling on yourselves, like you couldn't sit. Nobody involved in the show could think for 2 minutes about how that can very easily begin to completely decimate the character's growth or arc of any kind. And I have some wonder. Yeah, go ahead. I don't understand it.
This is what Sokka has. Like, he's the only, like.
While you compose yourself, some of the comments are that I read, are they going to remove the genocide committed by the Fire Nation for being iffy too?
Oh my god.
But isn't it part of his main character arc? Bring back
It's literally why he like gets Suki in the end. Like,
God forbid a character has to learn a lesson and become a better person. And then, like you mentioned, yes, let's dumb things down for a modern audience and take away the growth of his character. His respect for the Kyoshi warriors was due to the fact that he was super sexist to them, got schooled, and then humbled himself. That humility led to his training with them. What is there left if you remove that?
Exactly. And then this whole thing of like what this person said of dumbing down, like they it just gets me so angry. They work so hard to, people fought them on how, like, the topics that they were talking about. There's literally genocide in this show, and it's a kids show. People fought them so hard to change all of this, and they fought back saying no. Like, yes, they're kids, but kids are way smarter than than what we adults think. It's so annoying.
I mean, like, what? How can you be enthusiastic about this after hearing this? Like, you have to think to yourself, like, well, because honestly, we haven't seen a single episode, but just this kind of comment is very telling. It's so telling because of how disastrous it is. Like, if you already fucked up this much on one of the main characters, what does that foretell for everything else that's up ahead? David, how do you feel about all of this?
It's kind of confusing for me. I don't know, because like you guys are mentioning that it's very important for his character, but I can only think of 2 moments that it's kind of important for his character. Like that, and like in that episode, yes, but I can also think of in the 3rd season when he's learning how to like sword fight with the one guy. can't remember his name, but like, you know, he learned sword fighting in the Fire Nation basically, and that's really the only other moment where I think it's important, because of the whole Kyoshi thing. Because in the Kyoshi thing, yeah, you mentioned like he kind of like humbled himself and realizing like, okay, I shouldn't underestimate any other warrior and all that, and I should like be.
But that's like a huge moment for
I should
him.
accept humility and learn from others and all that. And so when he learns sword fighting in the third season, that's kind of another moment where he kind of like he learns humility, but instead of like underestimating the opponent, it's sort of, I guess, dishonoring or disrespecting the teacher and slash the other warrior slash opponent. Because remember, he gets down on his knees and it's like, I'm sorry, but I've been lying to you this whole time. I'm not some honorable warrior. And then that's kind of like, that's the moment where his teacher is like, no, you are an honorable. Fights him first, but then tells him later on, he's like, you are honorable. And that's sort of like the only two moments where I can think of that it's important. And I just don't see it anywhere else. Like, I don't know. And so with this one, I know it is important for that specific episode. Like, it's like, that is a moment.
Which is, by the way, I mean, not for nothing, that was a pretty foundational episode for the relationship of Sokka and Suki.
Yeah.
Like, that's where it begins. So you have to think to yourself, if you're going to replace this, well, what are you going to use instead? Because you're still going to have Suki and you're still going to have Sokka be a thing because you're so hell-bent on this being a carbon copy. Mm-hmm. But if you're replacing this, what are you going to replace it with? And is it ultimately not going to feel like it's just a useless replacement? And it's going to feel kind of weird. It's going to feel like one of those things that they add in and like, what? Because the best version of this already fucking exists. Going back to the uselessness of a live action remake, Alexis.
I think that like for him, it shows in a lot of different ways though. Like you have the episode where they meet Toph and how like, you know, he couldn't believe that Toph could be the way that she is. Like just in different ways that's how his character grows. Again, each character has different things that they go through. This is like his thing. And you also have to think like it's not going to be the same amount of episodes.
No.
What else are they going to do with him and his character growth?
Yeah, I mean that is the other big question for me. Like I said, like doesn't seem that important to me. I don't know. It's just like I think you can do something different. The only thing though is I don't know what you can do differently in that moment. Maybe it can be this whole thing that like it's not so much that he's underestimating it, but he's kind of like wants to push them farther, see like how strong of warriors they are, and maybe you can add a moment where it's because he's worried about his sister. You know, she may know waterbending, but she doesn't know how to fight, and so maybe she kind of like sees his sister and with them wants to like see if they are like strong warriors or something. I don't know. So I mean there are other things to do, but it won't be the same as the original.
Yeah, that's what we're trying, like it won't be as effective,
which is ultimately a loss. But then again, I think the bigger point is not necessarily the specific moments where he was shown to be somewhat of a sexist, but it kind of implies that, oh, wait a minute here, if these people have already, like, if we already know of some ways they have misunderstood some aspects of how things are supposed to work, it just leaves your mind going down a rabbit hole of like all the different possibilities where, once again, I don't understand what is going on lately in these last few years where we have people working on these projects who fundamentally just do not understand the projects they're a part of. Like, I mean, think about how badly J.J. Abrams misunderstood Star Wars. And I mean specifically with the last movie. He hasn't worked a day since. Do we even know he was alive? No one knows where he is.
No, he was there at the strikes.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, wasn't he? I could have sworn I saw pictures. I think we even commented like, oh, wow, he's out of the shadows or something like that.
Out of the shadows into the light.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking funny. Yeah, look, this thing has a uphill battle. Because, you know, DiMartino and Konietzko left. That's never a good sign. It's kind of like I mentioned, it's the kiss of death. These particular comments do not bode well.
Yeah.
On top of the usual problems that exist when you adapt the exact same story from one medium to the next. It's like you want it to do good. And look, not for nothing, there are some examples in Netflix's recent repertoire that have shown to be somewhat successful. We all want to point to One Piece as one thing as working out well. Okay, so it's not unprecedented that something can work, but it's ultimately unlikely that it will, considering we have a huge mountain of projects, of adaptations that have shown to be quite abysmal. So, and by the way, we don't really talk about it a lot, but like, this franchise has already withstood one disappointing live action adaptation.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, pretty amazing how it's withstood that, because that was, I mean, I want to say quite, not just bad, but it was quite easily one of the most infamous disasters in film of the 21st century. At least for us.
Yeah.
Like, it was very clearly like one of the biggest, just like,
what?
Whoa, like dropping the ball just completely. So it's like, you probably can't get any worse than that, and it probably won't. But that doesn't.
I don't think so.
You can't. But that doesn't mean that you can't fail in new ways.
Yeah, I think that we are still gonna watch it, because it's still it's a great story, in this world. Yeah, and we never like go into things like hoping that it'll be bad. And we've said this like a million times. We always go into things hoping to obviously enjoy it, because why would you? Although there are
like Ahsoka, like the Ahsoka show that we all sat here and watched for 8 weeks. Although ultimately we kind of had our suspicions that it wasn't going to be that great, and yet somehow we have to give it credit. Our expectations were blown away, but not in the direction we wished they were.
Yes. So
actually pretty fucking embarrassing. That honestly, like, looking back on it, that has to be one of the most embarrassing shows I've ever seen. Like, embarrassing for everybody involved. Like, what more is there to be said? But apparently there's a season 2 coming.
Oh no.
Oh my god. So,
and David already said we're not reacting to that. I mean, so
yes.
Anyway, you want to talk about the trailer? Because it came out this past week, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have thoughts?
It looks fun. The CGI, it's like not perfect or anything, but it looks cartoonish enough, if you get what I mean, basically. Because I do, like, in the end, this show is still for kids and all that, and so I don't mind it. It still the CGI doesn't have to be perfect for me. I like the cartoonish look of it that they're trying to go for, especially when you see Boomy in that, and like people pointed out that he still has like the giant hairy armpits and all that. So it's like, okay, they're trying to go fun, kind of cartoonish and all that, and it can work. One Piece is like the perfect example of like they really try to make it look cartoonish as they could, and weird. There's like a character who's like a chef, and his hat is just like 10 feet long or something. So like, they have fun with like the cartoonish side of things. And I
think that's actually kind of like key to keep in mind here. That's an element that the live action Disney remakes steered away from. And I think, as we have concluded time and time again, they ended up producing some pretty nightmarish results in some of those character design translations. But I think there is a lot more success to be found in the hybrid kind of live action remakes, where they try and maintain a semblance of animated esqueness to the designs. I think, to me, the ones that they've proven most successful would be the Sonic movies. I haven't seen them, but they seem to be very popular. Also, Detective Pikachu had a nice balance of this as well. So I will agree with you. I when I saw the I think the one glimpse we had of Momo, I'm like, whoa, okay, that I can vibe with that. That's good. I can. There's a creature and it's showing some emotion. Go fucking figure. So there's that. I did already see some people just like taking some side by side comparisons, because that's what's going to happen. Again, you're going to have a lot of similar scenes, but some people that I saw on Twitter were taking one of the more memorable sequences when Fire Lord Ozai burns Zuko, and comparing the animated version to the live action and how diminished it looks like, which is what happens when you take an animation and turn it into real life. It just feels so much smaller. Like, again, I think we have a new crowning example after watching Little Mermaid 2023. That fucking rock somehow being paraded around as the palace.
Oh my god.
Like, there's so many examples of the downgrade of animation into live action. Like, or even speaking of Ahsoka, how they had to rely on a fog machine for various different sets in that one episode.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now we're in this planet. Now we're in that planet. Although all you see is fog and silhouettes.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I kind of just blocked that whole thing out of my...
So it's like, yeah, it looked okay, maybe even good, but we've been here before.
Yeah.
We'll see. But we kind of know what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that rhymed.
I will say, too, some of the casting, it's pretty good. The Zuko's
dad.
Yeah.
Oh, the
perfect.
Casting, yeah.
Fucking Uncle Iroh.
Yeah.
He is fantastic for that role, for sure. I'm so excited for him.
Yeah. Of course, as with anything else, with any project, you hope the best for the actors involved, no matter the project itself. So there is that. Unless you're Awkwafina, in which case, I mean, all you're there to do is make money by cashing a check. Literally, to just do the same voice for every animated. Apparently, she has to be in every animated movie. So you just saw her in that fucking bird illumination film, whatever that was. You just saw her in Little Mermaid. Now you're gonna catch her. Now she's in one of the main characters in Kung Fu Panda 4.
Hey.
You can't make this up.
She's bringing in that money.
Yeah,
and I am not. So
that's true. Anywho, moving on now to our next topic here. Listen, okay, this is Barbie. There may be a helicopter flying overhead, so if you hear any noise, just know that that's what it is. I'm not being bombed. It's just that. I can't even begin to fathom the week that we just went through regarding Barbie, because it took on like 9 different lives, and every single day,
it really did.
Every day it kept mutating into something completely different, and not necessarily for the better. It kind of like, and then it got away from itself. It came back, and then it lost itself again, and was like, what happened? Like I'm literally am just left speechless at like the events that unfolded. But I actually do want to take the time to play a clip here by one of the Big Picture hosts. Her name is Amanda. She had a pretty inspirational rant about what I feel kind of summarizes the week that we experienced, okay? So I'm gonna play it for you right now because I honestly feel it's a pretty hilarious recap of what this week was.
And Hillary Clinton, of course.
I asked you guys to stay offline. You know? I asked you. I told you not to post. And look, here we are. Once again, somehow roped into the same-ish box as Hillary Clinton. That's what I'm angry about. As I said, I was not angry about the nominations. I understood. I didn't agree with all of it. But I am fucking angry that somehow I had to deal with Hillary Clinton again. Hillary Clinton, go do something. Like, honestly, we have problems. Like, I'm serious. Like, multiple horrific conflicts in the world. Climate change. Like, if it needs to be a girl boss thing, then, like, pay equity, maternal health. The fact that it takes 6 months to get a gynecologist appointment. I'm still paying taxes on tampons. Like, there are a lot of issues, but not this. Go away. Go do something.
By the way, again, this all started with the Oscar nominations, and then somehow we ended up into Hillary Clinton territory all over again. Like, this is an example of like where it even involved what in it
John Stamos.
Oh God, The View had a whole.
Yeah.
When it gets to The View, I mean, that's when you know the conversation has devolved completely and got away from itself. And I'm sure, and look, I just want to try to parse through this to Hillary Clinton, to the ladies on The View, to all the right-wing con artists who live for this stuff so they can get a paycheck. Get fucked. The idea that we're here and we have to talk about a wonderful movie, Barbie. And Bobby. Isn't that a Freudian slip for what's going on here? The fact that we have to involve a wonderful movie like that with all of your nasty asses, especially when there was, I think a lot of us feel that there was a real injustice done here, and yet we can't focus on that because that isn't the issue anymore. Like when the nominations came out on Tuesday and on Wednesday, look, there was legitimate frustrations and anger to be had at the outcome of what happened. Some of which Alexis particularly predicted would happen and how she would feel when they happened weeks ago. So that was the natural wave of the discourse. And then people went super hard in the other direction, which then caused a backlash and made all of us look bad for even suggesting that Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie not being included were snubs. Like, that's how, like, it's been pushed this way and that way, to where first we were like, how dare they? And now we're like, stop hitting us. Like, seriously, they were robbed. Like, why can't we have that opinion? And now it's like blown out of proportion. And then people are saying, well, you know, the Academy nominated one woman and how we should be happy about that. There is so much here. Hillary Clinton coming in here and sending in a tweet about how an injustice was made. And then she, of course, does what she does best and then ruins it for everybody and makes us all look even worse for having the opinion in the first place. What the fuck? Like, I'm even having a hard time articulating what this even was about in the end, because it sure as hell wasn't what it was in the beginning. Because in the very beginning, Alexis and I had the same thought where, like, and a lot of, I would say, well-intentioned people had the same thought where it was like, how do you nominate this one movie for 8 things, including Best Picture, but you don't when they're women? And by the way, that isn't and should not be an outlandish thing to say when these people have a long track record of being discriminatory towards women. And just because they happen to nominate a woman in the director's branch should not mean that they should be shielded or bodyguarded from any kind of criticism. It's obscene to me how people are suggesting that Greta Gerwig specifically was excluded from the director's branch simply because anything else that has nothing to do with sexism. I will grant you that Barbie is not the kind of film any Academy voter would prefer over any of the ones that were nominated. I will grant you as well that Barbie being such a populist film automatically gives it such an uphill, battle to climb, because in this branch specifically, they don't nominate directors that do big films, which, by the way, is horseshit. Because you're going to sit here and tell me that James Cameron shouldn't have been nominated last week for a $2 billion grossing film, which is one of the best looking films ever to be made? You're telling me that Denis Villeneuve shouldn't have been nominated for Dune 2 years ago when that film itself received 10 other nominations? You're telling me that Christopher Nolan shouldn't have been nominated for The Dark Knight? This happens again and again and again. So look, I grant you, these are realistic problems that exist in the director's branch specifically. But just because these things are true, and just because they also happen to nominate a woman, does not mean they're not sexist. Does not mean they don't discriminate towards women. I mean, the idea that they can only nominate one out of I don't know how many female directors somehow means that that's enough. All of a sudden, that's good enough. But in years prior, you would be like, with your pitchforks and torches out on the streets, is it because it's involving a film you made me not so crazy about? And isn't that pretty freaking telling? And it also is more egregious when you consider the fact that not only was this the most successful film of the year, not only was it the most successful film for that given studio, but it also happened to be the most successful film to ever be helmed by a female director. On top of the fact that on paper, no way in hell should a Barbie film been allowed to be anywhere near as good as this was, anywhere near as cohesive, anywhere near as collectively put together under an auteuristic idea and vision. The film may not have the most obviously or fanciest camera handling or directed scenes as Oppenheimer or Flower Moon or Poor Things or even Anatomy of a Fall. But the directing is more than just how interesting of a place you put the camera or where you hold it. It's about, does your film fucking work at the end of the day? And the idea that this film actually ended up being pretty great when no one was expecting it to be when it was first announced is a directorial achievement in and of itself. The fact that it exists, it is coherent, and it is beloved is an achievement and should be recognized. More, I will even say it, more than Cameron, more than Nolan, more than Villeneuve, because those films you can switch other direction and they might have a pretty good chance of being good. This was a singular story that only Greta Gerwig could tell. Nobody else could tell this story the way that she did. Okay? And so what I was really upset by in the initial day and the days to come, especially after Hillary Clinton came and ruined it for the rest of us, was that there are legitimate things here to be upset over. And yet we can't have that opinion anymore, because then we're going to be lumped in with people who are like, that want to burn the whole place to the ground. And even worse, we don't want to be seen to be aligned with people who the only film they watched was Barbie. And that's also not a good place to come from, because you're not really a film person. You're a celebrity person, or you're maybe just a Barbie person and you're angry. But we collectively here speak from a perspective of having watched the majority of these contenders. And the other thing is this idea that it wasn't a snub. What else do you call a situation that happened to Greta Gerwig? Greta Gerwig had been getting in at all the precursors for direction. She got in at the Globes. She got in at Critics' Choice. Sure, she may have missed at BAFTA, but she got in at the Directors Guild of America. That's the definition of a snub, where you get in at all the precursors, but you miss out on the Oscar ones, which is why snub is a term.
Yeah.
And that's not even getting, and honestly, it's worse when you consider Margot Robbie, because Margot Robbie got everything. She got Globe, Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild, BAFTA. She got all of the nominations for Best Actress, and still, when it came to the nominations, she was left off the list. You can feel however you want about it, but that's a snub. And for us to pretend that it's not is a fucking lie. But then again, we couldn't handle that kind of intellectual honesty. And so what happened is we as humans do what we do best, and we just turned it into a fucking deranged, brain dead, devolved argument where nobody wins and we all lose. Those are my feelings on it. Alexis.
Yes. I think like my biggest annoyance of all of this is the fact that, like,
can you name just one?
I mean, there's multiple, but this is like my biggest one, that you can have both conversations of Margot not getting nominated over Ryan getting nominated.
I forgot to mention Ryan. That makes it look even worse, is the fact that the man
yes,
got the nomination.
But you can also have the conversation of good for him, he deserves it, and good for America Ferrera, she deserves it. Like, you can have both conversations. We're not like, it's not like, it's even never worse, just Alexis, black and white. Like, you can have all of these things and still, like, and you're not like a horrible person if you know, like, if you have both conversations, or if you want to have one conversation over the other, like, both things can be, you know, happening at once. It's okay.
The thing with that though is how what bothered me the most was the people's defense on Ryan Gosling's like getting a nomination and all that, because now for me specifically, you know, if Barbie didn't get an award like at all, like none of these awards, I would have been perfectly fine with it. Like, I enjoyed the movie.
We're not referring to wins.
Yeah.
We're just talking about nominations.
Yeah.
Like, we know it's not going to win much of anything, but just talking about the nominations.
Mm-hmm. But
just to be clear about that.
No, yeah, but for me, like, I love the movie, but like, I don't think if it didn't get any nominations, I would have been perfectly fine with it. Like, that's me.
Right.
But it is weird though that you give it to Ryan Gosling, but don't give it to Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie. Like, where's the thought process on that, you know? And especially for Greta Gerwig, like, you give her all these other, the movie gets all these other nominations, but you don't give it to the director. Like, she's the reason why, part of the reason why Ryan Gosling is so great in that movie. And then when people go, it's like, yeah, Ryan Gosling deserves it because people love his character the most. He was the most fun character and blah blah blah. It's like, that's not an excuse though. Like, Margot Robbie still gave a great performance, and if you're deciding on like which character was a favorite, first of all, any franchise that you can think of, people will love the side character more. Like, we were talking about Last Airbender, people love Aang, but people will name any other character as a favorite besides Aang. People love Luke Skywalker.
In the Black Panther franchise, I mean, I would even say that while we had issues with Wakanda Forever, that kind of was a better movie, and the main character was ended up replaced because the actor passed away. And even in the first film, he was the least interesting part of that movie.
Yeah, but same thing. What was mentioned? Luke Skywalker. People love Luke, but they'll name Han or Leia as their favorite character. They even name R2 as their favorite character than Luke Skywalker. Like this,
or C-3PO. Don't forget 3PO.
Yeah, like people will name any other character other than the main character as their favorite.
Yeah,
a lot of other franchises. So like you saying like, oh well, this is the people's favorite. It's like that doesn't matter. Like Margot Robbie still gave a great performance. She was the one that like acted the shit out of the role. And that's not saying that he shouldn't get nominated because of his performance or anything like that. Like he still was hilarious. Yeah, I agree. But like, I think it should have been both instead of just one.
Yeah.
And so
and you know, you mentioned that I had said something about it last time we talked, and I think we both said like I don't think that it's gonna win, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's just it's so annoying that he got nominated and she didn't, especially with this movie.
The message of this film, right, is the idea of how women basically have to be perfect, and yet they still pale in comparison to men who don't even have to try. And that's why
that's Ryan Gosling's like thing though. He wasn't like, I mean, I don't know, I don't act or anything like that. I never want to be an actor, so like obviously I'm not saying that it was easy for him to do this, but like he was just being funny. He did whatever he wanted. That scene with the whole where like Barbie asked him like to go to the beach or something, and he goes back inside the house and he just goes sublime or something like that. He did like 20 takes of that, saying different things, just whatever comes to his mind.
Anything that came to his mind.
Yeah, and hello, Greta Gerwig was the one that chose this is the one, and we all laughed our asses off. Like this is why, like it's so yeah. This is why she should have gone for director, because she knew what which one specifically of his chaotic acting that he made into his movie. Like she knew which one to choose that would get laughs.
I mean, to be clear and to be fair, that isn't to suggest that Gerwig or Robbie were like not given some kind of nominations, because both Gerwig and her husband Noah Baumbach, they wrote the screenplay for Barbie. They were nominated in screenplay, adapted screenplay. And then Margot Robbie was nominated as a producer for Barbie in Best Picture. Well deserved. So, I mean, they did have something to hold on to, but you can just imagine what it felt like to be them. Yeah. And how do you not take it as like, well, all these other people had us in the conversation, and then when we get to the Academy Awards, we're just replaced. And then, look, the internet is so brain dead to think that by complaining somehow means that we're also tearing down Gosling and Ferreira is just so stupid and idiotic. But then some people took it even further by saying that because of the way that we were feeling meant that we had animosity toward Justine Triet or Anatomy of a Fall getting nominated. Like that's not the same thing. Justine did an amazing job directing Anatomy of a Fall, and she is more than deserving of that nomination. But why would we then
not be happy for them?
Yeah.
Again, it's this thing of like you can have you can see both things at the same time. Like,
but it's just like you're missing the point of Barbie. Like, well, why are we pitting women against each other? Yes, why was this framed as like, well, it either had to be Justine or Greta?
Or even worse, that you weren't because like, you know, they're white and powerful, whatever, that it's somehow less for Lily Gladstone or for America Ferrera. Like, no, what that's insane. That's crazy.
So, I mean, we knew it was gonna happen, and then when it happened, it was just like those bitches. They did it. They fucking did it. And we got to remember, though, it's like, here's the other part of the equation that really isn't being talked about, but also surprised me because a lot of these people should know better. Who are we talking about again? Oh, that's right. The Academy. They live on the ability of being able to exclude as many people as possible. Do we really think that the idea of purposefully excluding Robbie and Gerwig from those categories was not at play from some of those voters, especially when every single year, when those secret interviews and how those Oscar voters personally voted and their awful takes and tastes are exposed? Are we really going to put it past those people to specifically not vote for them for reasons like these? Come on, grow up. That's what it's like. Let's have an honest conversation here. But we can't, because it has to always be a binary. And when it is, it completely just implodes and devolves to the point where everybody feels like they have to have an opinion about it. And it's just like, well, anywho, that's on Barbie. I don't know what more I can say about it, but it's just I personally just feel like the artistic achievements of that film somehow have become, in this Academy Award space, controversial or are being put in doubt.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't an achievement.
Yeah.
It was. They pulled it off in ways none of us expected. It was one of the most unique experiences, not only of last year, but of the last several years. It was the cultural behemoth. And you know the part that makes it even more, maybe not disingenuous, well, a little bit disingenuous, but also just disheartening, was the idea that we all know the other elephant in the room, the other half of Barbenheimer, is Oppenheimer. But here's the thing. Christopher Nolan films don't typically get close to $1 billion on his name alone. You know, I think a Christopher Nolan film, you can bet on a $500 to $700 million gross on a good day, on a good year. But it almost crossing $1 billion, that's what we call the Barbie effect. That's what makes this even more kind of insulting, was that the industry is giving Oppenheimer way more nominations than it needs, like getting into costumes and makeup and when over other films. But Barbie fueled a lot of the money that Oppenheimer ended up making. Barbie helped get that film seen by a lot of people who ordinarily wouldn't give a rat's ass.
Yeah, which good.
Good.
I'm not complaining about that.
But what's not good is now we're at a point where we're selectively just going to ignore that happened. The same way, as a matter of fact, Christopher Nolan likes to ignore it happened. Let's be real about this. The man has not once said anything about Barbie. And the thing is, I'm sure, I don't know if he's in denial or if he just doesn't want to say or admit or say out loud that it wasn't solely because of his brand alone that caused that film to be as successful as it was. And you got to thank Greta Gerwig. You got to thank the whole team at Barbie for making that happen. Like we gotta, and I fear that we're losing perspective on that, you know? And by the way, just his refusal to even acknowledge Barbie is one of the little things about him that just puts him at a distance for me. You know, it's like, dude, come on. You don't gotta be that.
Margot has literally like come out and been like, no, like that movie was great.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer, and talks about Oppenheimer all the time.
Also, like, don't you want to have fun with like your fellow directors and filmmakers? Like,
yeah, like,
why do you want to put yourself in the bubble?
Whatever. To each their own, I guess.
Yeah.
Just be nice. I don't know.
So, yeah, there was a lot there, and anyway, let's get on to the Oscar nominations, which were they are what they always are. Some good, some bad, mostly just kind of blah and uninteresting. And before I even like get into any of that, I feel that despite the fact and despite Joe Coy's best efforts, I think we're living in an award season where somehow the Golden Globes have kind of won already prematurely. Not in the sense that it had or is going to have the best telecast, but it sure as hell had the best nominees by a fucking mile. And that's not even a question. The Globes came out and had the best nominees.
Yeah.
Because these nominees that the Academy released were pretty and some were pretty what the fuck? You know? So, hey, that's not the worst case scenario to live in. But people are not gonna see it that way. At least some of them won't. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and read from CBS. Just that basically summarizes what happened, right? So Oppenheimer led the Oscar nominations with 13 nods, followed by Poor Things with 11 nominations. The Academy Awards follow a year that saw Barbenheimer phenomenon of Barbie and the World War II biopic, Oppenheimer. This year's announcement wasn't without its share of surprises. It never is. With no Best Director nomination for Greta Gerwig for Barbie, she and Noah Baumbach were nominated for the movie's adapted screenplay, and no acting nomination for Margot Robbie, who was the producer of the Best Picture nominee, Barbie. In a statement by Ryan Gosling, to say that I'm disappointed that they are not nominated in their respective categories would be an understatement. Past Oscar winner Leonardo DiCaprio, who starred in Flower Moon, also didn't receive an acting nomination this year. Meanwhile, DiCaprio's co-star Lily Gladstone, became the first Native American to be nominated for Best Actress. America Ferrera scored a Best Supporting Actress nomination for her performance in Barbie after she wasn't nominated for a Golden Globe, and Justine Triet became the 8th woman nominated for Best Director. The 8th woman. These are, let me check here. These are the 96th Academy Awards.
There was a tweet somebody did that they said, hey, Academy, it's okay to nominate more than one woman. You're allowed to. It's okay.
And by the way, I feel bad also for Celine Song, the director of Past Lives.
Oh my god.
She was in the mix, and then she was kicked out because, again, one woman apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Justine Triet becomes the 8th woman only nominated in Best Director. The awards show will be held on March 10th, hosted by Jimmy Kimmel for the 4th time. One bit of a programming note, just in case, because it kind of flew under the radar. Jack, that's his name, right? Jack Quaid or Dennis? Yeah, Jack Quaid said that because he was one of the presenters alongside Zazie Beetz. He said that there was a change in the time that the Academy Awards are going to air. So what usually happens is they air at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So for us on the West Coast, it would begin at 5. However, they're starting an hour earlier this year. So instead of it being at 5, it will start at 4 p.m. Don't really know what's behind that. There was no indication or any further reporting that I have seen to suggest why they're doing that, but who knows? Anyway, yeah, it's really, really interesting here. I'm gonna get through the nominees as quickly as I can. I actually printed them out because I was not gonna fucking write them because there's like so many of them. So I'm not gonna like waste
so
like
funny.
pages and pages of like I'm just writing it when I can just like have it out here. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that this year. Only for the top 10. So let's start with Best Picture. They had 10 movies here. The nominees were American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Do you two have anything here that you object to being included and or things that you would have preferred to have been included for Best Picture? I do, obviously, but I'm going to let you speak first.
Was song, what's the movie called?
Past Lives. Past
yes.
Lives, yes. Past Lives only received 2 nominations. For Best Picture and for Best Original Screenplay.
It didn't even get cinematography?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh my god. I don't think so.
Okay. So films that were vying for this spot that missed out include May December, Saltburn, The Color Purple, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Which, now that we're saying it, yeah. How is it that isn't one of the best movies of the year? Because it is. David.
Well, for Spider-Verse, I'm holding out that maybe the third one's good, and then they'll finally be like, all right, let's give it to them this time, you know? Same thing, I mean, that's what they did with, like, Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, Toy Story 2.
Toy Story,
the same situation happened with Toy Story, but to be fair, though, when Toy Story 1 and 2 came out, those were in days where, at that point, the only film to ever be nominated for Best Picture in the animation category, an animated movie, was Beauty and the Beast. That was it. And then Toy Story 3 was the third. That was the last one to be nominated because it was Up and then Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
For Best Picture, to be clear here. But you're saying that when the third movie comes out, then they'll recognize it?
Yeah. At least that's my hope. The one that I would have liked, actually, Godzilla -1. I think that one definitely deserves it, especially with its budget and how it can make it super, super great. I mean, he definitely deserves it.
Would you take anything out?
It will probably, I mean, this is mostly just because I haven't seen these two, American Fiction and Zone of Interest. Those are the only ones I would take out. Poor Things. Poor Things. I haven't seen that one, but like I feel like that one's getting more compliments than the other two that I mentioned. Everything else. Oh wait, Maestro. Ooh, sorry, but I don't know about that one.
I've seen every movie on here except for The Zone of Interest, but I would actually keep it in because I have no doubt that it is very deserving of being in here, considering its subject matter. Again, that's a film about vacationing Nazis near Auschwitz. So, fun time for the family. Jesus Christ.
I wouldn't have included Saltburn.
I would have just for the laughs. I gotta be honestly here. I would have just for the laughs and for the entertainment of it. Did it
at least get something?
No.
See,
0. That's a problem considering it had been getting in at other places. Saltburn did get a Best Picture nomination from the BAFTAs and the Critics' Choice Awards, and then Barry Keoghan was also nominated at BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and also Golden Globes. So. It had been around in the mix. It wasn't doing overwhelmingly good to be confident about it. But to me, if there was there's actually several things you could have nominated it for, honestly, if you ask me. Maybe not Barry because it was I only have 5, so I get it, but I would have considered him. But I think the one that it barely missed out on was screenplay. And they chose to go with May December instead of Saltburn. And I have now seen May December. I saw it this past week.
I need to see it because I know the subject that it talks about, and I don't know what is being said in the movie. So I am interested in seeing it because it's a strange topic, but I don't know.
It only got one nomination. May December, that was its only nomination, was for screenplay. So again, Saltburn and May December were like fighting for its one inclusion in here.
What about the Zac Efron movie?
The Iron Claw should have definitely been in the conversation, but the problem was it was a late December release. Nobody saw it. Nobody wanted to see it in these groups because they already had their set number of films, and so they missed the cutoff point, which is a shame. And also A24 should have just pushed it to this year because A24 already had Zone of Interest and Past Lives, and so the Iron Claw got the short shrift.
They should have waited.
Yeah. They should have waited because of everything else. They should have gotten in for.
I do feel bad because I've heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's great, and it should have been included at least for Zac Efron, maybe even for makeup as well. Like there's some great things to nominate it for. Saltburn, I think, definitely should have been considered.
They should have gotten something.
Cinematography.
Yes.
Production design. This is my
set design.
Well, yeah. So set is under production design.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's what it is. My controversial, I think it'll be considered controversial perspective is Saltburn also should have been nominated for best sound editing because there's sound editing moments in the film that are among the most visceral moments involving sound in cinema of last year. So,
I think you just wanted it for them to play that scene.
But I mean, wouldn't that be amazing though? To have that scene played at the Academy Awards? Which is probably why they didn't go for it, if we're being honest. Yeah, there was that. Should May December have been considered for more? It had great performances. I ultimately say I don't really know if I care about the movie all that much. I think it's technically good, but I didn't find it all that enthralling, if I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm not terribly mad about that. Past Lives, I think, deserved a lot more than just those two nominations. But if we're going to talk about what deserved to be in Best Picture, well, I want to go back to what David was saying, because you're saying that you're holding out hope for the third film.
Yeah.
What I had said in the weeks leading up to this was, if Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse can't do it, what animated movie can? Which is to say, how can you hope as an animated film to match or top what Across the Spider-Verse did in terms of what it delivered? Like, look, you have to, guys, please pinch me if I'm saying something out of term here. But I personally feel that Across the Spider-Verse is one of the most successful films of the 21st century, and is very easily one of the most visually dazzling films of the 21st century, and is a work of art and an achievement in filmmaking. It's all of those things, and it's still, and here's the thing, David, it's not just the fact that it couldn't get into Best Picture, it's that it couldn't get into anything outside of animation. Look at what's happening. This is the second year in a row where, not even just the second year in a row, when was the last time we had an animated film get nominated for a category that was an animated feature, especially when this year Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron were getting consistently nominated for things outside of animation, including original score. where it damn well deserved both of those to be in that category. And what happened? They weren't there, which goes back into the thinking is like, what happened to this fucking Academy where 10 years ago they were beginning to nominate animated films for screenplay and for score and for picture? What happened in these 10 years where we have films of the caliber of Del Toro's Pinocchio, of The Boy and the Heron, of Across the Spider-Verse, and they don't have a fucking chance to get into anything outside of animated feature category? So my thing is, if this couldn't do it, what will? That's pretty fucking pathetic to me.
No, yeah.
To me, there's no excuse. There's just no excuse.
No, yeah. I mean, both Spider-Verse movies like deserve a chance at in even like directing, best picture, and all that, editing for sure.
Screenplay, production design, visual effects, sound, score.
Yeah.
My personal perspective, there should be a whole category created for soundtracks, and this should also be included in that. Like, there's a lot of things you could have nominated this for, because it happens to be an animated movie. It's not considered a serious film, which is ultimately why they even have an animated feature category in the first place, was so they can just get away with ignoring it in the more serious categories. I will say here, films that I would remove here. Now, this is just, it comes down to personal taste, right? Maestro, Holdovers, and American Fiction are films that are, well, two of which are very good. One is not very good. But all three, I don't think, are among the year's 10 best movies. So those are things that I would just remove off of my personal list. Maestro, I feel, has no business being anywhere near here. And honestly, I think American Fiction also just, I don't know what was going on. Well, actually, you know what? I do know what was going on. Was that this film was made with it counting on a large segment of white audiences to not understand that the film was making fun of them. And so it got nominated, of course. The nominations began, by the way, with Best Supporting Actor. And when they announced that it was Sterling K. Brown, I was like, oh, here we go again. Oh, boy. So there's that. Best Actor. Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer. Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers. Coleman Domingo for Rustin. And Bradley Cooper for Maestro. I would make so many changes to this category. It's not even funny. Even though I want to say I am happy for Jeffrey Wright and Coleman Domingo for by the way, it is difficult for just one black man to be in Best Actor specifically. Like, it is notoriously difficult for a black man to be nominated in this category. And for two of them to get in, great. But even more so for the two that they are, Coleman and Jeffrey are veterans in this industry, and these are their first ever nominations. So I'm happy for them personally, even though I don't think personally those performances are among the best, or those films technically are among the best. So those would be two I would remove. Sorry, not sorry. Bradley Cooper gave a technically great performance, but no one's going to remember that movie. So that's another one I would just remove. And so what would I replace those with? Zac Efron in The Iron Claw, Barry Keoghan, of course, in Saltburn, and Andrew Scott in All of Us Strangers, which, if you haven't seen, is very good. And also a film that should have been considered for more things, including Best Picture. It's that good. Like, I saw this film, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I saw it in one of the AMC theaters a few weeks ago, and people couldn't stop crying. Like, this film. I did hear about that, and that makes me... There was this one woman who had to remove herself not once but twice because she couldn't stop crying.
I can't even imagine.
This is a film that deals with a grown individual basically interacting with the ghosts of his parents that died horribly when they were young.
No. Can't. No.
That's cool.
It is a great movie. It is one of the year's best. And it should have, well, it didn't even get one nomination, as a matter of fact. And it also might have delivered career best performances by Jamie Bell. And yeah, Jamie Bell's in this and he's amazing and should have been nominated. And Claire Foy also gave an amazing performance in this for supporting actress and was not anywhere near.
Jamie Bell was in this.
He's in this.
I freaking love Jamie Bell. Oh my god.
Jamie Bell and Claire Foy play the parents.
Stop. No. What do you mean he plays the parent? He's Billy Elliot.
He is. But they're young parents.
That made me feel...
Well, they're young parents because they die young. That's the part of the tragedy.
He's still Billy Elliot.
Yeah. Also, I would say here, I cannot believe Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't in here.
That was weird.
Just crazy to me. Because that I thought was one of his better performances, but clearly nobody else thought so. Which is dumb. Your thoughts on this category? I mean, obviously Killian or Paula Giamatti is winning. We know that already. That's not even a question. And I think those are very deserved nominations. That's why I didn't even talk about them. But there are other things that should have been in consideration for this category. And again, it just feels like it's okay, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Similarly with supporting actor, Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction, Robert De Niro, Flower Moon, RDJ, Oppenheimer, Gosling for Barbie, and then Ruffalo for Poor Things. Not much that I would change. I would remove Sterling K. Brown easily and put in either Willem Dafoe or Dominic Sessa for The Holdovers. Or, you know what? Mine would be Jamie Bell. I would put Jamie Bell in here for All of Us Strangers. I think he was so, criminally overlooked.
I would choose Holdovers. I mean, his
Dominic,
first role.
I just want to see Jamie Bell. So,
I mean, but David, I gotta say, my personal pettiness would not compel me to vote for him because if Gabriel Labelle couldn't get in last year, Dominic is sure as hell not getting in this year. Which is dumb that we didn't even. I know. Don't even get me started on that. But you know who else though got Milo? The kid that in the Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, okay.
He was also one of the ones that was in consideration. For this. So that's another one you could have put in here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh my god, I'm like starting to remember now his scenes. I'm like, holy shit, there's that one the scene for him. Like, how the fuck did he not get it?
Yeah. So again, there were other. I'm happy Mark Ruffalo got in because he was in serious danger of missing out. But again, that's a career best performance from him. He definitely deserves to be in this category. Some people were saying Charles Melton. I saw the performance. I wasn't crazy about it. Maybe I'm the one that's crazy. Who knows? Actress in a supporting, in a leading role. Annette Bening in Naiad. Lily Gladstone in Flower Moon. Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan for Maestro and Emma Stone for Poor Things. I would easily drop two of these people. Annette Bening. Nobody saw that movie. And Carey Mulligan in Maestro. Not very many like that movie. Who would I put in?
Past Lives.
Well, actually, you know what? I would also drop Lily because I don't think she belongs in this category. I would put her in supporting. That's my like crazy thing. I think she belongs in supporting, not leading. So that's what I would personally do. Greta Lee for Past Lives, definitely one. Yes, bitch. Margot Robbie for Barbie, 2 should have been in here. I'm not getting off of that. And 3, Fantasia for The Color Purple. She was really good. That was her first film role too, and she should be here. Which is also another film that got done so dirty.
Yeah.
Only got 1 nomination. The Color Purple. So yeah, I would drop Lily and put her in supporting. She still got nominated, but I wouldn't put her in leading.
Yeah. She deserves a nomination. But it's also, I mean, she did win a couple.
She won a lot. No, she won a lot. But as we mentioned previously, like we're now in this awkward point where Emma seems to be on the hunt after winning Globe, Critics' Choice, and then she ended up getting nominated at a BAFTA. Lily did not get nominated there, which means Emma's going to win the BAFTA. So Lily has to win SAG, and if she doesn't win SAG, it's not looking great.
Yeah.
But again, this is what, and I've seen Emma Stone. She deserves it in that movie, particularly. I mean, she deserves it. Any other people who you thought should have been considered for Best Actress that we hadn't been mentioning here, or ones that we did mention?
No, I think those are
the ones.
The ones, yeah.
Okay. Actress in a supporting role: Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer; Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple; America Ferrera, Barbie; Jodie Foster, Nyad; and Divine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers. Okay. A lot of people have been moaning and whining and complaining about America Ferrera being in this category. What do you guys think?
I think it's fine. I can't really think of anyone else right now who could like replace her or anything. I mean,
ideally it would have been Lily Gladstone. But I don't think that she
would have won. Huh? No offense to Divine Joy Randolph, but she wouldn't be winning a thing if Lily had sit in this category. This would be the one that was a lock guarantee. Which is why look at where we are right now. This is why we felt the way that we did back in October, which is Lily Gladstone's Oscar is kind of in jeopardy and fading away because she's in lead. And now Divine Joy Randolph has a guaranteed Oscar. But it wouldn't be that way if Lily had just stayed where she honestly should be. But it was what it was. Okay. I would say that I would keep Emily Blunt. I would keep Danielle Brooks. I would keep Divine Joy Randolph for the holdovers. And the ones that I would put, well, there's a lot actually. I would put in Taraji P. Henson is somebody who has been so underappreciated in this business. And she gave her absolute best performance in The Color Purple. So she should be here. At the same time, Claire Foy should be here for this movie and All of Us Strangers. Also, Rosamund Pike in Saltburn should be here. So there were performances to consider. And you know what? I didn't even mention this in actor or in supporting actor. But are we going to forget about Teo Yu and God damn it, what's his other name?
My God.
Teo Yu and give me 1 second. Teo Yu and John Magaro in Past Lives.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of John Magaro for
supporting
actor for sure. Just because, I mean, he had that one scene. They were in the bed. That was great.
That scene. I can't. I am just thinking about All of Us Strangers now.
You gotta see it.
Oh my God. I'm just scared. I have been leaning against not watching things that make me cry so much. Or there's like this book that I really want to read, but everybody says that like you cry so much reading it that I'm like,
well,
I don't know.
Okay. Directing. A lot of changes that I make here. Justine Triet, Anatomy of a Fall; Martin Scorsese, Flower Moon; Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer; Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things; and Jonathan Glazer, The Zone of Interest. Where is Celine's Song for Past Lives? I would put in Greta Gerwig for Barbie. I also feel
this one is kind of tough because I don't think that I would take anybody out.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish there was more space to put more people in.
That's true. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Is like you don't want to take it away from anybody because they're all deserving in here, but there are other people who should be here, like Greta, like Celine. I'd like to make a case for Emerald because I rewatched Saltburn yesterday and the day before. And I feel like the direction of that film is pretty fucking great. But you know who else should be here? And I think who else deserves recognition? Thompson, Powers, and Dos Santos, the 3 co-directors of Across the Spider-Verse, and Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes.
Especially Hayao Miyazaki.
Mm-hmm.
Has he ever been nominated?
Not in Best Director.
No.
No animated director has ever been nominated for Best Director.
Of course.
No. He's won for Spirited Away, and he also happens to have an honorary Oscar for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Hayao Miyazaki you'd think would be at the very least on the list, but that didn't happen here. So yeah, animated feature film, Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Across the Spider-Verse. What missed here? Mutant Mayhem missed here.
Mm-hmm.
Wish also missed, but nobody was sad about that. Nobody was sad about that. Elemental made it in, which only goes to reinforce the strength of Pixar.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I was actually asking David if we should do a reaction on that one, or if not, I could watch it on my own and we could just do a review. It doesn't matter to me. But I will see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen it just yet. So, oh yeah, Mario missed, but nobody was expecting Mario to be in here. So there's that. Adapted screenplay was American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Happy Barbie's in here. Where the fuck is Flower Moon? Flower Moon, by the way, the only Best Picture nominee. Let me make sure I have that correct. The only Best Picture nominee to not have a screenplay nomination. The rest of them did. American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Holdovers, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. The only Best Picture nominee to not have a screenplay nomination is Killers of the Flower Moon.
But nobody's saying anything about that. That's crazy.
That's insane to me. What else would I put in here? All of Us Strangers, All of Us Strangers, All of Us Strangers. That's a screenplay movie. When you see it, you're going to get it. Original screenplay, Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, Maestro, May December, Past Lives. I already mentioned Saltburn should be in here. Fuck it. I'll even put The Boy and the Heron should be in here for original screenplay. Even though technically it was based off of something originally, it ended up being something else completely at the end of it. So it should be here. Cinematography, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, Maestro, Flower Moon, and El Conde. That's the Pablo Larraín movie, which I saw and was very good and should be here. Saltburn should be here. But the rest are fine. Costumes. Yeah. Past Lives should be here. Yeah, you're right. It should be here. But evidently that's a laughable thing to say. Costumes. Yeah, I know, right? Costumes. Barbie, Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Napoleon got 4 nominations.
I mean, at least I got something. I would give it for costume.
For costume, production design. I think it was on that for sure. I don't know about anything else.
The color purple. Wonka's costumes were great.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wonka had really great costumes.
I mean, Wonka for production design too, for sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't there. And we're talking about Wonka. None of the songs for original song.
Did Wonka get nominated?
No, not at all. Documentary feature. Nobody watches those. I mean, I watch them.
You watch.
I try.
I watch them. But nobody cares. Yeah. Skirting along to editing. Anatomy of a Fall, well-deserved. Holdovers, Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Look, the more I'm reading these nominees, it's just like what a waste of time. Oppenheimer is winning everything.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer is winning 9, and this is like the most boring Oscar season ever. Like it's already like it's over a month away, and we already know what the outcome is. Like, what a joke is this? International feature film, Io Capitano, Perfect Day, Society of the Snow, The Teacher's Lounge, and The Zone of Interest. Anatomy was not in here because the French government did not like Justine Triet criticizing the neoliberal government. And because of that, they did not submit her film for consideration. And then what happens? The film they ended up submitting was not nominated.
Hey, she got everything else.
So the French government can go fuck themselves, basically.
Also, I heard what that snow movie was about, and that gives me anxiety.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for that reason as well. At the same time, because Japan could only get one film in here, Perfect Days, it couldn't submit Boy and the Heron, which it wasn't eligible for this category. And then also Godzilla -1 was not eligible. And it absolutely is a freaking international film if there ever was one. It should be here, but it's not because of those dumb rules. Makeup and hairstyling. Golda. I don't know what that is. Maestro. Literally, I don't know what that is. Maestro. Oppenheimer.
That is so funny.
Society
that
of the
Maestro
Snow
is in this.
I didn't think the makeup in Oppenheimer was very good.
Also, is Guardians in this?
No.
That's interesting.
It's not in
except they put the fake Junos in there. All right.
This is also the same people that chose Suicide Squad over Star Trek Beyond.
They awarded Suicide Squad when they can't even nominate Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Mm-hmm.
Guardians 3 had the single most use of prosthetics in film history, and it couldn't even get in here because of its affiliate. Well, yes, that, but it also happened to be affiliated with Marvel Studios.
That's true.
Anyway, costumes and production design, which I haven't gotten to yet, those very clearly should be Barbie versus Poor Things. I actually just watched Poor Things again in theaters with Peter this time last week.
Wait, what was the category?
Oh, costumes and then also the sets, production design. Poor Things has the best sets of the whole year. When you watch it, you will see for yourself. But then again, Barbie is also really good too. So on those sets, production design, Barbie, Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Yeah.
I think it would have removed Oppenheimer and added Saltburn.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No. For sure. I this is the thing. Oppenheimer didn't need 13 nominations. It didn't need to get into some of these categories. There were other films he could have picked, but you just didn't want to. Sound, you had The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning becomes the very first Mission Impossible film to ever be nominated for an Oscar. This is the 8th film in the franchise.
They just had to nominate Tom Cruise.
Yeah. But that was legitimately a great movie, though. A really good movie. Visual effects, The Creator, Godzilla -1, both of which well-deserved. So good on that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and Napoleon. Ironically enough, Oppenheimer should be here, but it was eliminated. It was eliminated because they were boasting how they didn't use that much CGI, and so they were disgusted by that. And that's true. That should be here. Also, Poor Things. There was they used the volume a lot in Poor Things, but you would never tell. Original song. The Diane Warren song from Flamin' Hot, which nobody saw. I'm Just Ken from Barbie. It Never Went Away from American Symphony. Wajaji, the song for My People from Flower Moon. That's the song that closes the movie. And then What Was I Made For from Barbie. No Song from Wonka. 2 out of 10.
Come on.
Now
Wait,
the one
was Color Purple?
No.
But they chose. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, even crazier. Look at the nominations for original score. This might have been the most insulting one. American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny,
I forgot about that for a second.
Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
Spider-Verse.
Indiana Jones has no business being here.
No.
And here, this is the thing. The best John Williams score that he's given us was The Last Jedi. And that happened to be the only one he wasn't nominated for. He was nominated for Dial of Destiny and The Rise of Skywalker. Although, John Williams now has 54 Academy Award nominations.
Dang. That's like...
And is the oldest living nominated person. At 91 years old.
Oh my God.
Good for him.
So there's that. But at the same time, Daniel Pemberton, I think, had the best score of the year in Across the Spider-Verse. And Joe Hisaishi. Not just for The Boy and the Heron, which was one of the best of the year, but for his career as well. That didn't happen. So anyway, I gotta tell you guys, I'm a little bit over it. I kind of just want the Oscars to happen and we can just move on with our lives, because we know Oppenheimer will win 7, 8, or 9 of them. And that's it. Any else to add on to this? Oscar, nominations. Any other thoughts?
I cannot believe I'm just getting Ken got nominated.
That it didn't, or that it did?
That it did.
I'm Just Ken, the song?
Yes.
You
Is that what you said?
You can't believe that it did or didn't?
That it did.
Oh, you're surprised. That was a good surprise, you mean?
No, a bad one.
Why?
Over a song by The Color Purple?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. But there's only one new song. Well, actually, there's 2. The Halle song.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. I think I'm Just Ken's better. That's just my personal opinion, though. David, any last thoughts?
Boy and the Heron and Spider-Verse should have gone for best score.
Not Indiana Jones.
At least, yeah, not Indiana Jones. No. Compared, all I remember from that is just like the literal main theme. And honestly, the music worked better in the trailer than it did in any moment in the movie. Have you listened to like the trailer music? Like it's just it's really cool. They made it look epic because of the music.
Yeah, it didn't really work in the movie, but I wouldn't blame that on Williams. I would blame that on Mangold, the director. Like it clearly wasn't something went wrong in that movie for a lot of different reasons in the editing process. Okay, shall we talk about Saltburn now? This is the film that a lot of people have been forcing others to see against their will on TikTok for viral social media reactions. This is directed by Emerald Fennell, the director of Promising Young Woman, and also she's an actress. She also played Camilla Parker Bowles on seasons 3 and 4 of The Crown. She's also a former Academy Award winner for screenplay for Promising Young Woman. The film stars Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, Rosamund Pike, Richard E. Grant, among others. And we're all about to lose our minds. This is the description from Letterboxd. Struggling to find his place at Oxford University, student Oliver Quick finds himself drawn into the world of charming and aristocratic Felix Catton, who invites him to Saltburn, his eccentric family's sprawling estate, for a summer never to be forgotten. That's for sure. there have been a lot of things said about this movie for a lot of different reasons. I would say that I think it's entirely fair if you want to point out that the film doesn't necessarily have much on its mind or much that it wants to communicate to you. That's fair. But I also think it's fair how much of that you choose to care about. Because, I have complained a lot about many films not necessarily having a coherent idea or really having much of anything to communicate. But that doesn't mean that there can't be films made purely to entertain and to shock and to give you a hell of a ride. In more ways than one, apparently. And I think Saltburn was a complete success from the standpoint of entertainment. I can't really kind of articulate it the best of ways, honestly, but I was pretty much in it from the beginning and all the way through. With a big smile on my face, sometimes a different kind of smile, depending on what was happening on screen, which ranges, honestly. And then by the end of the film, you're just like, wow, I had a great time watching that. And I think if that's all you have to say about a movie, what's wrong with that? Because that's exactly what a lot of people had to say about The Holdovers, right? Which what it came down to was, I had a great time. That was a solid movie. Not much else to say about it. It didn't seem that we were angry at it in that situation. But somehow people wanted to be furiously angry at this. Even though it is one of the best looking films and one of the best directed films. And also, honestly, from a dialogue perspective, one of the best written movies of the year. I freaking loved this movie. And when I saw it initially, I was just like, this is crazy. I love it. And for the record, Peter really liked it as well. You guys saw it together. That must have been an experience. Because you saw it at home. I saw it in the theater, twice in the theater. And twice, the reactions that the film was definitely wanting to get out of people, mission accomplished. Everybody was just like curling up in a ball and cringing loudly and violently at the moments that you should have. So I don't know how that translated at home, but it seems, according to a lot of the videos that I've seen, it's translated perfectly at home. People are still having the same kind of reactions that they would have if they were in the theater. Please feel free to add on to what your thoughts were of Saltburn.
I love this movie.
What a surprise.
I think it's so fun. I think it looks so pretty. I think I love every single character in this movie. Even the really horrible ones. I just think it's so funny.
But to be fair, there are a lot of odious individuals in this picture. I mean, it's pretty much, it's kind of hard to find somebody. Yeah,
I even was gonna say the guy from House of the Dragon, but no, he even is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Which also David didn't realize that was him, and it was funny.
Oh my god!
To see his reaction.
I'm trying to. I was literally. You can see my face, like trying to remember House of the Dragon guy. What are you talking about? Oh, I remember now.
Which character?
The guy with the eye patch.
He's the guy that he meets, his college friend that he meets in the beginning.
Yeah. That was like, give me a math problem. It's like, Dad, I believe you. Give me a math problem. It's like, okay.
Wait, what character did he play in House of the Dragon?
The guy with the eye patch.
The one that has like
the
the
one
giant
with the big dragon? The one that steals the big dragon?
Literally?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no wonder I hated him. That makes it okay. I did not get that at all. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty unlikable. Look, this is a film about unlikable people. Let's just be real about that.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes. I like the way that the story is told, because even though like I knew a lot of the things that were gonna happen, I didn't know how it was gonna happen. So the whole time I'm like, wait, but like how, like, when is it gonna happen? How is it like it's like we're almost to the end of the movie, like what's
That's
going
right.
on?
To be clear, Alexis is not at all allergic to spoilers. So I think you knew the whole thing, what it was going to be. All I knew was the word of mouth was like there were some shocking things, and that Barry Keoghan was going to reveal a lot of parts of himself that we hadn't seen before, and he did, to his credit. That's all I knew. The whole context of it. It's funny because the film kind of changes as it goes, and I think I've seen some reactions that kind of agree with us, where it's like, and even Peter said this himself, like I think the first 15 minutes of the movie kind of feel like a, what would you call it, like a teen, like high school movie or something, a teen college movie, and then they kind of like morphs.
Yeah, it just shocks you in the best way.
Yeah,
like it's just so fun. I loved seeing David's reaction, because again, I knew a lot of the things that was gonna happen. David knew one of the things that was gonna happen.
Did you record it?
No,
dude.
His reaction.
The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, we should have done reactions to this. I would have been hilarious.
It's just, I love this movie, and I love Barry Keoghan. Like, I'm sorry, this is like what, like 4 for 4? Like, I don't even know. I love him.
The man
I love
is
the music
of turning in a single bad performance.
My mind.
The music.
And
by the way,
also
the score
simultaneously made me feel really old.
Well, to be fair, you mean the soundtrack, right? But the score is also great. It had a great score as well.
Oh, I was paying attention to the music.
Well, it is music. The score is music,
like the
but
soundtrack.
it's like right. The lyrical music.
Yeah.
Which was great. Like from beginning to middle to end, like every song choice is like spot on. Particularly that ending, in large part because Emerald Fennell wanted to end with that song, and I'm not sure if I got a chance to actually share it with you, but on the day that we're recording this, the BAFTAs announced something, that Sophie Alice Bextor, who sings the song "Murder on the Dance Floor," is going to perform the song live at the BAFTA Film Awards later this year. And by the way, the BAFTAs did nominate Saltburn for a lot of things. So it's, I wonder if they're going to rope in Barry to do something. No, I don't think they will. I don't think he would want to do it. I think part of him is kind of regretting doing this movie in the first place is how many jokes have been made about him and his member, particularly I wouldn't say, like, I'm not being serious there, but it's like too many of the same kind of jokes that have been made about it. So the impact of that song choice is kind of seismic, because I've been seeing that song pop up. I mean, it's kind of like places.
The Stranger Things,
running up the hill.
But I didn't like that song.
Oh, it's a great song.
I don't like that song.
Oh, I like every song pretty much. I mean, the only songs I don't like are like Cats or Metallica.
What do you
mean? Some songs are okay. I don't know.
But yes, I love this movie.
No, you're right. The soundtrack, the musical score. I mean, because it also has instrumental music that's not original compositions, but there's this use of music. Actually, it's a song during. By the way, at this point, spoilers, but everybody has seen it already, so who cares? During the main funeral scene, where the whole track plays, and that, I think, to me, the use of sound is in this movie is just impeccable, because you have the soundtrack, you have the score, and then of course you've got the sound editing to accentuate some things that happen here. When we get to the sequence in the grave, we'll get to that stuff in a bit, but like you notice that the song stops, and we're just listening to ambient noise just so we can get the full experience of what was going to happen next. And we hear the actual sound of things being unzipped and things being inserted. So I think that the use of sound in this film, I think, is pretty remarkable, especially when you look at a lot of the reactions that I was seeing from reaction YouTube channels. And they're hysterical. But I love the points that you made, Alexis. David, your thoughts on this film?
I really
we should have done a reaction to that. Why didn't we think of doing a reaction to this?
I know.
This perfect.
The next one that you find to be like as crazy as Saltburn, we'll for sure do reactions. Like, I don't know, just because for sure my reactions were really funny, because I was like, is this the scene? Is this the bathtub scene? Like, oh, okay.
But I feel like that wasn't even like the worst. Like,
No,
I think
no,
the
but
grave
like,
one is like a little
no, the grave
worse.
one, that one would have been hilarious to see my reaction, because I was just
yeah, because he didn't know about that one.
I didn't know about it,
Because
and
the bathtub scene happened, and I'm like, wait, but there's more. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm all, just wait.
and then the grave scene though, I was just like, oh, we're still going. Okay. It's just like, it's not stopping. I don't know what's gonna happen.
And you immediately get uncomfortable because like, oh God, what's about to happen? And then you see it and you're like,
okay.
okay.
No, but for sure, no, I really, really liked it. I like that the movie just kind of takes its time with everything. You know, you get to know these characters. They're bad people, but like you like them, and I think that's what it took its time on in the beginning. Afterwards, you kind of see the whole spiraling out of control of the main character with Barry Keoghan's character, and I like
Oliver Quick.
Yeah,
what a name, Oliver Quick.
Yeah, and I just like that you don't know what his motivation is like the entire time. Like you just have no idea what his end game is, and then when you finally see it, you're just kind of like, good for you. I don't know, like to me I was like, good for you.
Honestly, yeah, like look, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of making a film where everybody is various like degrees of unlikable, where arguably the one who's the most heinous ends up winning, and yet we all end up rooting for it. Like, it was a pretty joyous ending. Not just for him, but for us watching, like, wow, you did it. Like, congratulations on that. Like, you just can't help but going along for the ride of it. I think that's kind of the magic of the film, is like, you just can't help but being sucked in and like, well, I guess we're here now. And with every crazy thing that happens, you're just more and more in it. And look, the thing about that character is he's a sociopath. But like every sociopath, there are like moments of like authenticity, and of course, like with any sociopath, he doesn't tell the truth. Even in the scenes where like he's, I guess, talking to us directly about like, no, they thought I loved him, but I didn't. You loved him. There were so many moments. I mean, you smiled every time he was around. Like he kissed you. He put his hand on your knee. There was even, and I didn't catch it the first few times, but in the scene before they go to his home and find out the truth, they're in the bathroom and Jacob Elordi has a surprise. How cute. He has a surprise for Oliver on his birthday. And the way he's just smiling at him, it's just, they radiate couple vibes like throughout the whole of this movie. And so it's just, obviously the intent is that he's in denial of like his real feelings, but of course it was love so extreme that hatred had to be in there as well.
Yeah.
And not just for was Felix, but for the family.
Yeah. What I found interesting, and I don't know what that says about me, But like, I think like for me, the cringiest part was when they went to Oliver's house.
Yeah.
You know, like that feeling that you and Peter say, like when you guys watched Red, and the mom goes into the store, or like embarrasses her. That's what I felt in that moment. Like, and I just think that that's so funny because of just like everything else that happens around it.
It's those cringe moments. Like I think of several moments in the movie Love, Simon. I think there was this character that is asking a girl that's way out of his league for prom in front of the homecoming game, and you're like, those are the most awkward situations, and you just like you do this the whole time,
Yeah,
just so you don't like, you know, I see no evil, I hear no
like
evil.
in Past Lives when they're at the bar and
Thank
the wife and the friend are talking to each other. I could not watch that. Like,
Even our dad was just
and then
like,
the husband was right next to them, like not understanding anything. I couldn't deal with that.
even their dad was just kind of like, stop leaving him out of the conversation. Like, what are you doing?
He didn't exist in that moment, clearly.
For sure.
If you go back, not at all. I agree with you. That to me is my least favorite in the movie because it's the hardest to watch.
Yes.
And I think I would skip past it. Usually, and it's funny because this is a film that has at least 3 sequences that are designed to be hard to watch and designed to make you uncomfortable. And they were successful, but in an entertaining way, you know, not in a cringe way, the way that it was with finding out the truth about the parents. And so a lot of the conversations surrounding the film are those 3 sequences, and which one was the worst? I think my favorite one is still the bathtub one because the reactions to it are delicious.
This is so funny.
Because I mean, seriously, it's just like, especially the slurp and how loud it is, and everybody on cue just like being so completely grossed out. I love it. It's yeah. Now again, I guess sexuality may play into this. Because I have heard differing opinions where the kind of people you would expect to be into that kind of thing were like kind of turned on by the bathwater situation, particularly the substance that was in the bathwater. Similarly, there were people who were saying that they were turned on by the period blood suction situation. And not the kink shame here. We don't do that on this podcast. Anybody's, free to, be into the thing that they want to be into.
As long as there's consent.
Yes, that's the most important part. Which is the consent.
Was there in the?
We should talk about though. I think if we're talking about like what was the worst one, I mean, it's the grave one. Who in their right mind walks into any movie thinking you're going to see the main character stick his penis in a grave? Not just that though, but actually hump it. Like you were actually like having sex with a grave. Like that was the closest I think that Oliver came to sleeping with Felix.
And also, I don't think it was longer than meeting the parents, but like it felt super long. And I think that's what made it more awkward.
No, yeah, definitely for sure.
Also, that was improvised.
What was it? Oh, no. I wanted to. Yeah, it was very important to bring that up because that whole situation was not in the script, and what the situation that I'm referring to is, well, just that, him taking off his clothes at the end of the funeral and having sex with Felix's grave. That was not scripted whatsoever. Basically what it came down to was Barry had asked Emerald Fennell if it was okay if he were to try something. That's the extent of it, just to try something. And she's like, okay. imagine being those people on set, and what you see transpire in front of you is your main lead remove his clothing and start having sex with a grave.
I just feel like the way that this man plays each character that he does and understands them so well.
Unsettling?
Insane.
Insane and unsettling?
I don't think that there's been like a character that you are really not supposed to like, who does all these things that are not okay, and like for him to still be like super likable.
That's the beauty of Barry Keoghan, honestly. Like he literally gave it his all. On that grave scene, by the way, I believe Matt Neglia of Next Best Picture directly asked a question if there was ever a point where in the scene where he's having sex with the grave, if there was ever a point where he thought to just keep digging. And what I mean by keep digging,
yeah,
open up the coffin, and yeah,
I'm sure that came to mind. I wouldn't doubt it.
Just imagine, Jesus. Anyway, and of course the ending, which was perfection.
Yeah,
absolute perfection. I mean, I don't think you can get any better than that as an ending. Also, let's not forget about the amazing ensemble cast here. How great was Jacob Elordi?
For sure.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is the first real performance I see of him that's not Kissing Booth. I haven't seen Euphoria or Priscilla or anything else. I like Kissing Booth, but I that's all I know of him.
I've only seen Euphoria.
Okay.
And so it was nice to see him like being it. He's still a bad person, but like he was very likable in this.
Very charming. Very charming. But yeah, also he definitely had his weird tendencies too that are not necessarily that explored in the film, but you catch on.
Mm-hmm.
So he's great. Barley is great as well, as is Venetia. I think Venetia
also I saw the racing movie that he's in.
Gran Turismo. Yeah. It's good from what I hear.
Good.
Got to keep an eye out for that one, apparently, even though the trailer pissed me off to no end.
Mm-hmm.
Venetia was great. Always loved to see Richard E. Grant whenever he pops up. He was just delightful to see. Rosamund Pike. Oh my God. I mean, did she not deliver on every line she was dropping? I mean, literally, like, so funny.
She was great.
She was perfect. I believe she did receive a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress in a comedy, or not comedy, but in a drama.
Nice.
I think, or just in general, Best Supporting Actress. She was very good. The house, Saltburn, the cinematography, the costumes, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, this is the same cinematographer as that does all of Damien Chazelle's movies. Ooh. Whiplash, La La Land, and Babylon. So
that's cool.
Like top notch work that we have here. It's such a good movie.
It is. I loved it.
I don't know what it was about it, but it also kind of, because it deals with a family. I could see why it was released during Thanksgiving time.
A double feature. Knives Out.
You do realize that I have a Knives Out poster next to a Saltburn poster, like literally right here.
I have the poster.
You can't make
one before dinner, one after dinner.
Yeah. So clearly, this is one of our favorite movies of the year. I freaking love this. So yeah, I would say go watch it, but you already saw it. So All right, as we close the show today, let's talk about the trailer to the final season of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. As we mentioned at the top, The Bad Batch is an animated series that is an epilogue of sorts to Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and very easily has blown away every other Star Wars show, Andor not included, by the way, out of the water. There is no comparison. In fact, the argument can be made that of all the new Star Wars shows in the Disney Plus era, Bad Batch is second only to Andor, and everybody else is fighting like, just so many miles down below the bar. I wasn't expecting so much out of a trailer because you know what it's going to be, but it reminds you of all the big seismic events that happened last season regarding Omega, regarding the death of one of the team members, and also like what's at stake ultimately here, because I think what has made the show so successful was that in many ways it has felt like the kind of transition from Republic to Empire we haven't really seen in Star Wars. We've always gone from Republic and then fast forward to Empire. We've never seen the transition. And I think what kind of has made the show powerful is the same way that has made Andor powerful, is that we're living in times where fascism and neo-fascism are on the rise all over the world. I mean, we're living in a country where a candidate who led an insurrection is on trial for that and many other things, may win come November. I mean, we're living in those times, and so they feel so potent right now. They feel so powerful. And to me, some of the best episodes that Star Wars animation has ever produced has come from this show. And to me, it's just kind of, it's solidified itself in the trifecta: Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Rebels. Like they come in together, and anything involving animation for whatever reason works for me. But when you do the live action, it falls off a cliff completely. So there are returning characters. Fennec Shand, Cad Bane will be back. You saw the Emperor in here. Hemlock, the main doctor bad guy who's in charge of this program to find a way to clone the Emperor, which ultimately this leads down to, we know where it's going to go to.
Yeah.
But that's not the craziest thing that we are about, but it's more about how what happens to the clones with this empire and what has happened to them. Been pretty fucking heartbreaking. So you see more of that in it. And that's all that happened, right? There wasn't anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. There was one thing. Asajj Ventress? Asajj Ventress. Okay. Couple of things here. More than a couple of things here. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of what future this character has in, dare I say, the live action space. But considering how literally every other Clone Wars character made a comeback literally in so many other spaces, and considering that they're not going to stop bringing characters back after the dead, and I've kind of like made peace with that, fuck yeah, let's just bring Ventress back. I'm sorry, if you're going to do it for everybody else, let's bring it for a character who we have not had closure with on screen. For those of us that cared enough and to read her up until what was previously known as her final ending, if you just watch Clone Wars or the shows, you have no idea where that character went. You have no idea what happened to her. And that's sad. And she's also a popular character, and a popular character to invest in more stories.
Yeah.
So to me, it has been for years now a no-brainer to bring her back. By the way, this isn't a thing that came out of the blue, because Filoni almost brought her back years ago when they did that Resistance show on Disney XD. They were going to bring her back in the sequel trilogy era for I don't know what the character was supposed to be. But Filoni long ago had made up his mind. I think I want to bring her back, which is what he does with literally every character. So again, no surprise there. So again, this has been something that has been on their minds for a while now, but it may be something where I can appreciate where they were actually trying to be delicate and measured about where exactly to be brought back. Now, mind you, would I have guessed the Bad Batch show be the place to put Ventress back? No, but at the same time, the Bad Batch
was there.
I'm glad it was there, but also the Bad Batch has been a show more than just about the Bad Batch clones. It's a show about all the clones, and it actually happens to be a show where a lot of Clone Wars characters kind of pop back up again, where like Senator Chuchi came back, and she played a big role last season with the conspiracy episodes, the Kaminoans and what happened to them. Like, so much of the hanging threads from Clone Wars are addressed in this show. And so, like, if you're a fan of the Clone Wars, we're now at a point where the Bad Batch is a must-watch territory for a lot of the things and a lot of the ground that's covered on here. So, and then with Ventress, we see she has a new look, but it's the look that she had in the Dark Disciple novel. So ultimately, the question on everybody's mind is, what's going on? Didn't she die? You know?
Yeah.
By the way, I want to take this on the plug. I had to. If you haven't read this, by the way, this year I think marks 10 years that this book has been out. Let me see.
Oh wow. Also audiobooks for Star Wars stuff. Great.
Also, yes, the audiobook is great. I also on YouTube, some people did a production, like if it was like a radio play with music and everything, and it sounded really, really good. I was listening to it a few hours ago. 2015 is how this is when, but the stories that this is an adaptation, because this was adapted off of 8 unproduced episodes, all of which were written by Katie Lucas, George Lucas's daughter. Which were written circa 2012, 2013. But then again, Clone Wars was canceled before they were able to produce those episodes. So because of how good they were, they gave it to Christy Golden and they made a novel out of it. And it's a great book. And if you care about Ventress and what happens to her, and it also happens to be one of the most pivotal moments in all of the Clone War. But essentially, she doesn't make it, and her final resting place up until now was the Night Sister pool, where she first entered on the show to actually be a Night Sister, to reborn a Sister of the Night. And the book ends with Quinlan Vos, who ended up being her lover. You wouldn't know that if you watched the show, but it happened in the book and everything. The spirit of the Night Sisters welcoming Ventress. And like he actually hears that. So like the Night Sisters have found a way, obviously we knew this already, of having a consciousness outside of the cosmic force after their deaths. So how do you come back from that? I don't know. And I got to be honest, I also don't even care. I'm just happy that she's back and we get to see her again. And
we get to hear her. Oh my God.
Yeah. Nika Futterman, the voice actress. This is the first time we hear her in over 10 years.
I'm so excited.
I don't know what she has to do with any of this. I don't care. I honestly don't even care. I'm just glad that she's back. And I can't even, I was like, I was in disbelief when I saw it. I'm like, they did it.
When I saw it, I was like, Like, I think I just scrolled past it because I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, right, yeah. Like what?
She's
They'd
been
actually
ignored for so long.
10 years. How many times am I going to say it? 10 years. She's been ignored for 10 years.
I'm so happy. And again, I am so happy that it's in this show, in this way.
In the era, too.
And it was not in the previous Star Wars thing that we watched.
How heartbreaking would it have been if they announced this character in The Mandalorian?
Which
or
I know we
Boba Fett?
mentioned, but also I'm so happy that
because
didn't
it was a
happen.
disaster. And again, like those shows, like there's no shortage of characters that end up getting ruined because they're involved in those shows. They ruined Boba Fett. They ruined Ahsoka. They ruined Sabine. They ruined everything.
Quick question. Ventress died before Order 66, right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she ended up dying. She sacrificed herself.
Yeah.
She blocked the Force lightning from Dooku that would have killed Quinlan Vos. So she sacrificed herself to save the love of her life. At the end of it. And I'll tell you, one of the most emotional moments in all of Star Wars for me personally was reading in this book the last words that she spoke and how happy she was to finally be the person she always wanted to be at the end.
Wow.
To be a hero.
I know. It's so good.
and this is why I've been saying for 10 years now, for like, however, as I'm happy that we have this, but just imagine had the Clone Wars continued, and these were going to be not for 8 episodes. This is a huge arc.
This is the story that they should have done when they aired the last season of the Clone Wars, instead of whatever the thing with Ahsoka was, or just also included in there.
Especially because it's Ventress's final story is tied in so much with a lot of the themes of the show overall and the failure of the Jedi and the Jedi Council, because I don't even remember what the words. I'm sure Mace Windu was a dick in here, as he always is in this book, because that's just the role that he seems, hell-bent to play. But Yoda and
or maybe
Obi-Wan,
they'll do Tales of the Jedi.
It's not enough, though.
I know.
Look, we got a campaign for them to do it justice. Give us the 8 episodes. Give us 2 movies, or just give us something. Because I'm hoping that with Bad Batch, this is gonna open the door for more Ventress stories in animation. Fingers crossed and everything.
Please.
But yeah, like Ventress's death was such a pivotal moment in the Clone War, because this comes after literally all the episodes of the Clone Wars where they banished Ahsoka, where they realized that the enemy made the clone army for them, when they realized so many other things. And this was the moment, to me anyway, reading it, the point of no return. And there's scenes here where Obi-Wan is just like, fuck. We just keep hitting new and new lows. This, like, because Kenobi and other members of the Jedi Council feel personally responsible for the death of Asajj Ventress, because ultimately what happens here, Mace Windu instigates this by saying, why don't we just kill Dooku? And let's just get Ventress. And compromising more of their principles by doing a direct assassination mission, which I didn't even mention that Quinlan Vos, Jedi Knight, like, he goes to the dark side in this book. Like, he becomes an enemy. Partly because Ventress coaxes him into doing it, but for a point. That was the mission. And then he turns, and it's a whole thing here. There's even an exchange in the book Anakin and Padme have, where Anakin is just so confused about how could anybody love Ventress. And Padme is like, well, hello, look at us. Like, it's pretty easy to understand the situation they're in. Like,
yeah.
So
I'm so excited.
I am too. And also one of the things is, I mean, she has her yellow lightsaber, which we never got to see, and it looks amazing. One difference though is, I have to mention this, the hilt is different. Whereas the hilt on her the hilt on her lightsaber matches the lightsabers she had in the show, but were stolen by Barriss Offee at the end of season 5. And the lightsaber that she has here is a different model. Look, there's going to be liberties taken. I don't care. But they did already make a statement saying that they're not going to betray what happens in here. But at the same time, they even did in the databank for her character on StarWars.com saying
Do you think it's a flashback then?
No, it's not. No. It's confirmed to not be, because they actually say that it's funny because at StarWars.com it says, oh yeah, she died, but her story didn't end there. Yeah, literally. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the point, which is like there were more stories after her death. So it's implied she comes back.
That's dumb. Sorry. But that's why I asked the question too. It's like, wait a minute. Didn't this take place before Order 66? Because I remember Obi-Wan being in the book, and I'm like, wait, the timeline's not right here. So I don't understand.
I mean, maybe it could be. But at the same time, they've brought so many characters back. Honestly, I'm just going to go with Night Sister magic. Does it make sense ultimately, thematically? Not really, but do I care? If I got to get her back, fuck it. That's where I'm at. So, who knows? Some theories have speculated that Asajj Ventress helps out Quinlan Vos in hiding refugees from the Empire. Because in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, they mentioned Quinlan Vos as being one of those former Jedi Knights that helps hide people away. So, there could be that. You never know. But we'll find out pretty soon.
I know.
We'll find out pretty soon. And I wonder at what point in the season she's going to come in. And for what purpose, too. You know?
Yeah.
Because she's not just there to like, hey, I'm here. But what purpose does her presence contribute to the Bad Batch? You know? So it'll all be fascinating to see. But I think for the moment, anyway, we can all just look forward to that actually being a possibility, that we get to see her again and hear her again.
I know. I'm so excited.
That was long. Anyway, anything else to say before we leave?
Nope.
No, then I guess we're done. Thank you all for listening and watching. We're going to coin that term. Our show here on Red Spotlight. You can catch our show every single week. Anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'm done. Anyway, bye guys.
Bye.